Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth gaming discussion podcast. I am your host, Brad Ellis. This week, joining me is Matty. Matty,
Hello.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well. Already feel like I've known you for years, man.
Yeah, I've been listening to the Dukes for a while, so I do
thank
know
you.
some about you, which is great. And
Hopefully
of
good
course,
things.
yes, good things. And of course, Chris. What is people call you just Chris Raygun? How does that even work?
I don't know, man. I'm a YouTube person first, and it was just the name that my channel had when things exploded, and it was like, well, too late to change this. It's gonna be this now forever.
Yeah,
Now,
I feel
imagine
like
that, but your name was Glitcher27. That's what I had.
Oh, dude, like you're
Glitcher.
if you were,
yeah,
if you
when I
were
was a COD YouTuber. and now that channel's gone because I posted Derek Jeter's 2000th hit and the Yes Network took me down.
Yo, really?
Oh man,
That's
my
awesome.
first channel.
Dude,
10,000
that's
subs
sick.
down the drain.
Yeah, I'm glad it was that at least, and not like my first gamer tag that I was stuck with. It was
Oh
like
yeah,
some cringe-inducing nonsense that I have probably blocked out of my memory at this point. But
yeah, totally.
yeah,
Jesus.
I'll never forget my first gamer tag because my dad, very religious dude, it was XX Fallen Lord XX, and he was like, "Hell no, you are not making your gamer tag that." So I forgot what I ended up with.
I
But
love that it's always an XX. There's always
Yeah.
there's always like
two
X's.
X's, man. Couldn't go with the
just
three.
it's aesthetically pleasing.
It is.
Yeah, there was something aesthetically pleasing about that era. Before we get into the show, though, please check us out on patreon.com/laststandmedia. $5 a month gets you early access to this show and the free versions of this podcast, as well as others, including Sacred Symbols and Defining Duke and Punching Up. So enjoy the show. Please head on over there and also leave us a nice like on the YouTube if you enjoy it, or a good rating on any podcast services you use. We would greatly appreciate it. All the boys and girls appreciate it here at Last Stand Media, so please hook us up. All right, boys. Quick softball to just warm us up. Last episode, we talked all about Game of the Year and all that kind of stuff. Give me your guys' Game of the Year.
Oh,
You
boy.
can do the top 3, or just one.
Oh man.
Chris, I want to hear from you. I don't know what you were enjoying the most this year, man. I want to hear from you. Like, what
Me?
were you digging?
I can give you my top 3, pretty much. So number 1 was Zelda for me. And
Yeah.
2
I didn't
was...
finish that.
Yeah, I could understand it's a long-ass game.
It's not even that. I don't
2
have a problem. I love long games. Yeah, I love JRPGs and stuff. It's
Yeah.
just like I think it felt too familiar after I got really into the thick of it. Is what happened to me.
I could totally see that, yeah.
Yeah.
2 was Final Fantasy 16. 3 was Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
Then 4 was Baldur's Gate.
Wow.
Oh, wow, it's pretty low. It's pretty low on a lot of like that's.
Well,
that's
here's the thing.
I expect that to be like number one.
Well,
for
here's
most
the
people.
thing. Baldur's Gate is like the game where I'm like, if I am looking at it from objective standpoint, I'm like, what is technically the best game? I would say Baldur's Gate is probably
Oh
the
yeah,
best
no,
game.
totally, easy.
But I was just like, nah, fuck that. This is my list. These are the games I enjoyed personally the most.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah, man. Baldur's Gate. I felt so out of it, man. I'm not really a turn-based guy. Like I loved everything about Baldur's Gate when I wasn't in combat, like talking to people and like doing like conversational dice rolls and stuff. Like that was fun as hell, and I loved what was going on. But the second it got, I'm fighting 50 goblins, I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't grasp it. But I think for me, I don't know. The top 5 is a bit. It's a bit. I feel like it goes all over the place a little bit because sometimes I feel more high on others, but I think the top one for me, or the one that I feel like I have the most, or I resonated the most with, was like Alan Wake 2. Just kind of blew my mind, like
that one.
in a way that I really kind of couldn't believe, to the point where I'm even right now, like after, like the second I finished it. I went and played through it again. I really rarely do that with
wow.
narrative games like this. I'm usually kind of set on it. It's like, oh yeah, that was fine. But I played through it again, and then I played through the first Alan Wake, and then I'm playing through Control again, just because I'm like really immersed in this weird Remedy universe that they're building. But yeah, Alan Wake 2 just felt really uniquely directed. It felt like so many different mediums kind of smashed together. It reminded me of, I mean, this is an insane comparison, but bear with me. Like, it reminded me of like when you would watch like old cartoons and they would like mix media, like where you would be like, hey, here's like Courage the Cowardly Dog, and here's like a claymation sequence all of a sudden. And
yeah, dude.
Like, it felt like they were just having so much fun with the medium of like what games were doing and like how they function. And the fact that it was such a linearly directed story, but you could experience it non-linearly, and you could come away with two completely different experiences based on the order that you played it, and it all worked. It's just so cool, and it's just a weird style and really beautiful game. I don't know. I like that studio is really fascinating to me in a number of ways. Yeah,
they are.
But that was the top one. Shout out to Dead Space Remake, by the way. I loved Dead Space.
Yeah, Dead Space was on my top 10.
Yeah, so good.
It is very good.
Top 5 for me. So good.
Yeah.
That's my favorite survival horror game ever. So like, I think it's, so how people talk about Resident Evil 4 is probably, I always tell people how I feel about Dead Space.
Same.
Like I played Dead Space for the first time like not Dead Space, Resident Evil 4 for the first time like 3 years ago. So like I was late to that, where I didn't have that growing up with it. Whereas my 360, one of the first games I got was Dead Space. And I've gone back to that game so many times, where it is just a big part of me growing up during that generation. And, you know, I was skeptical about the remake. Anyone who listened to Defining Duke know I was like, EA Motive made the Battlefront 2 campaign and Star Wars Squadrons. And while I'm not a fan of the Battlefront 2 campaign, I can respect Squadrons. I'm like, this is a leap from like, you're making middling stuff to now a GOAT. But they did a phenomenal job. Like, they even made the story better. I didn't expect. That was the thing I was most afraid of. They're like, we're going to make Isaac talk now. And one thing that I think 2023 was defined by was just loud, annoying, nonsensical protagonists.
Oh, man.
And sometimes they're better off silent. I was like, are you guys going to ruin things by making Isaac, wow, did I just use telekinesis to throw this sword into a necromorph? Yeah, I just was terrified what it would become. But I put my foot right in my mouth. I apologized for my review. I was like, this was amazing. It was amazing. I replayed it 3 times last year. It was so good.
Yeah, super. And something too about, we're kind of going off on, we're kind of talking a lot, but like, I think
it's the show, baby.
There's something about that era, right? Like Dead Space, even Resident Evil 4 remake as well, that like I was playing through, but I loved both of those, by the way. But like, I feel very similar to you, Matty, where like Dead Space is my personal, like, I loved Dead Space to a degree that, and the fact that they took a game that was already great, that had a few, you know, parts that weren't amazing, and kept everything that was amazing and made those parts that's kind of, I mean, let's be real, kind of sucked in the original Dead Space. Like certain boss fights where I was just like, this doesn't control as well. And then they made those parts highlights of an already like great experience. Like they really nailed it. But the pacing of games from that era is so perfect.
So good.
Like I love, like I'm the opposite of Matty in some ways, because I don't love long games. Like I very rarely find a game that, like when I play a game and it gets over 30 hours, I look at my watch and I'm like, all right, what are you getting at?
That's normal though. I'm definitely the weird one with that. Like, not that I'm looking for like my next Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but like,
right, yeah,
I love a good JRPG.
No,
and
totally.
Especially if it's like a nice time sink. It's like, okay, I can get into this.
Yeah, I get it, but like, there was something going through Dead Space and finishing it and being like, that was such a good amount of time to experience this, to the point where I'm down to play this again immediately. And same thing with Resident Evil 4. Honestly, same thing with Alan Wake 2 and the original. When I went back to the original Alan Wake afterwards, was just like, man, the pacing of these games are so good. What happened? So many games feel bloated now, and not even just like the JRPGs and like the RPG, which you expect to be like really long, but like even stuff that's like, a lot of things overstay their welcome. Even games that I love.
I agree.
That's true. Yeah, special totally Dead Space.
That actually is why I loved. Sorry, Brad, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's why one of my top 3 this year. It was only eclipsed by Baldur's Gate 3, which, just Baldur's Gate 3 fits my taste like a glove. So it doesn't really surprise anyone that, that's my game of the year personally. But that's why I really loved Lies of P. Lies of P, in a very fatigue-ridden, oversaturated Souls-like genre, just came out and said, like, okay, we're going to give you the best of everything, and we're also going to tell you a story, and this game is going to be 25 hours long. It was so purposeful every step of the way that I immediately hopped into New Game Plus, and there's something to be said about that nowadays that's like exceedingly rare. And so, yeah, just Lies of P, like, I think Baldur's Gate 3 speaks for itself. Lies of P is like, I got to be the people's champion for it. Like, anytime I get a chance to promote it, it's like, I probably sound like I like it more than Baldur's Gate 3. On some days I do, truthfully. Like, that is a spectacular game that's just gradually, you're seeing more and more people talk about it and discover it. I encourage people, if you've not played it, I know, like, after Elden Ring, I was in the same ballpark of like, I think I'm done with these Souls-likes for a little bit, not because I don't like them, just, I feel like FromSoft did their thing and we've hit the magnum opus, but then they come along and just fight this uphill battle and like completely win my heart. It was so impressive. So
with a fucking Pinocchio game.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And the ending is sick. The ending is so sick.
I laughed out loud at that ending, dude.
I just love where they're going with it. I'm like, this is gonna be great.
I'm like, okay, I'm in. Let's get
it. Because I feel like video game endings are so rare. Okay, they're so rarely exciting because either you can kind of see it coming because I don't think stories are written as well as they used to be, or I mean, we're in this news age of social media where people are like happened with Hogwarts Legacy and Spider-Man 2, like, we're just going to spoil it for you. Like, just in mass, we're just going to spoil this for you. And it's horrible. It's going to probably happen as we all expect.
Or we just know every single company's release schedule for the next 20 years.
Yeah. So or the trailers spoil it all. So for Lies of P to end in a genuine surprise, like, I tell people, like, go play it and beat it, because right now, like, once they drop the next trailer, it's going to ruin what I think made the story so special. Like, because it's in this vacuum right now. But once you see that next trailer and what's going on, you're going to be like, oh, wait, they're doing that? And you're going to wish you saw it in game first, where it's like, that's such a rare feeling. Like, I can't think of a game that gives me that feeling in the last 5 years at least. So, that's definitely one of my favorites this year.
Yeah, I definitely got to finish it. I haven't finished it yet.
It's really good. Yeah, I think it's a really great game. To me, still, and it's not fair, they're not close to From Software yet in terms of everything else. But I'm like, you guys are probably the closest to getting to them right now. And like, that's the hardest mountain I could think of in gaming to climb, is being competitive with From Software. But I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and I think they got something going there.
I also really liked Octopath Traveler 2, if I could just throw out one more.
Yeah,
that
dude.
Was in my top 3.
I'm so mad I never played it. I never got to it.
I tell people, like, if you've not played the first one, like, don't hesitate to drop in. There's connections to the first one.
I played a lot of the first one, and I think it burnt me off from playing the second one.
Yeah, that's fair, because the first one wasn't paced that well, and the story wasn't as good. I feel like 2 is the perfect response, literally, to every problem the first game had. It has a more interconnected story. Like, after every arc, you have these characters talking and interacting. The art is beautiful. Like, literally the most beautiful game last year, in my opinion, was Octopath Traveler 2. Soundtrack's amazing. They have this new day-night system, so like quests cycle around with that. The world feels really alive and interconnected. There's like 2 continents. There's like a ship sailing thing that you can do. Like, that game's insane. I know we're way past the Game Awards at this point now, where the conversation's come and gone, but I felt like that was the most overlooked game at the Game Awards. Like, it was so deserving of some level of attention. And the fact that I know critically it did well. Commercially, it didn't seem to do that hot. And to see it also got overlooked when it came time for the end of the year to maybe give it some roses was disappointing, in my opinion, because I think that game is fantastic. That was my top 3: Baldur's Gate 3, Lies of P, and then Octopath Traveler 2. Octopath Traveler 2 was my game of the year until Lies of P was finished for me in like October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was that good to me. Nice.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, give it a look.
Also, some of the patrons wrote in about their game of the years. They was a survey going on our Patreon Discord. People collected some votes. Brad Schmaltz wrote in, "Hello, gentlemen. Over the past few weeks on the LSM Discord, I have conducted a listener survey on our personal gaming habits for the year of 2023. I am thrilled with the engagement, having received 132 unique responses over the holiday season. Important to remember, these results only comprise a small sample of the overall LSM viewership, and those of us degenerate enough to frequent the Discord no less. But in this write-in, I'd like to share the GOTY results for everyone. Game of the Year, a hotly contested title this year with some great discussions all year on Discord. I present the top 10 results without comment, number, votes, and brackets. All right, so we're going to start from the very bottom. We're starting number 10. Number 10 was Jedi Survivor, which I like to see. Really good Star Wars game.
Yeah, that game's amazing. I love it.
Matty, it's funny. I reviewed that game also, and where I was like, dude, this game's really good. Then it came out. And people are like, oh, it sucks. And I was like, what?
It's the worst feeling when you get caught blindsided by a horrible technical release and yours was fine, bro.
Yeah, it sucked. Number 9, Lies of P. Number 8,
little low. We need better. We need better from you guys.
Number 8, Hi-Fi Rush.
Respectable.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Number 7, Starfield.
Wow, that cracked the list.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, cool.
Number 6, Resident Evil 4. Number 5, Spider-Man 2.
No comment.
Number 4, Alan Wake 2.
Okay.
Number 3 is Zelda. 2 is Final Fantasy 16.
All right. Well,
and number 1 is Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. A lot of 16 love. I want to say I'm surprised. That game is like, it's not like a lazy effort by any stretch. Like you could tell they put effort into it, but I just did not click with 16 at all. I can
see that.
Pretty disappointed with it, actually.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I just really loved the characters and the story a lot. Yeah. Like there's definitely problems with that game for sure, but I think the positives outweighed the good for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the presentation of it is, I think, pretty great, and I think the presentation does a lot of the heavy lifting because I kind of did fall off it at a certain point, but that's just. I think there are certain JRPG tropes that like don't work for me. Like I remember specifically being like really invested in it, and then it kind of ends, and then it keeps going. Like there's like this like, and this is something that I'm familiar with. Like it happens a lot where it's like it's almost like you're watching like an entire show, and there's like seasons almost, and like. One season would be a normal entire game, but then you get to the end of it, and then you're starting the crescendo of the second season. You're like, I was really more invested in that first season. I think I don't know, but no, that game, I don't know. It's weird. It's probably the most that I've enjoyed a Final Fantasy apart from 7 in a long time, but I did still end up falling off of it. I have conflicting feelings about it.
Yeah.
It's a complicated game, but I'm fascinated to see Starfield crack the list because just based on the conversation around it, I actually really enjoyed it. But like, despite like a ton of flaws, it's like it's mired in flaws, no doubt. But I'm a NASA nerd, and there's something about that type of science fiction that I really, really like. Yeah, but it still wasn't cracking my top 5 for sure of the year.
It just missed mine personally, but
yeah.
You know, I'm also biased. I really like their style of games, even when it's at their worst. I tend to enjoy them a lot.
I played that game 10 hours, given its chance. Matty, I got to tell you about a certain encounter I had, though, that made me stop playing the game. In a shop, dude, on that Cyberpunk City or whatever. Okay? Sneak in there, stealing from some guy in his office. His assistant is staring at me as I'm stealing. And I just steal the stuff from him. She doesn't do anything. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I shoot someone in the head, bullet my gun like against their head, shoot them. Nothing happens. They don't react. Oh boy. I start shooting everywhere in the room just to see if anyone would do anything. No one reacted. I killed someone. No one reacted. Actually, they reacted for a second. I walked out of the room and I reset it and I walked right back and everyone was back to normal. And I was like, okay, I need to come back to this game later on, maybe when they fix some of that stuff. At this
point, like I feel like if anyone's disenfranchised with Starfield, you may as well just wait for like they just committed to. They said there will be like an update every 6 weeks. Yeah, and they're adding like new ways to travel, and they're adding like new gameplay options and stuff. And at this point, like if you played it for 10, 15, 20 hours, they're like, yeah, not feeling it. Like just wait for all the updates and the expansion that comes at the end of the year, see where it's at then. That's what I recommend to people, because like I think it's already been decided who likes it, who doesn't. For me, I was like, I really enjoyed like the interior design. I really enjoyed the gameplay, and I loved all the conversations. But yeah, like a lot of people had buggier experiences than I
That's the way it goes.
did.
I know.
Yeah, it's a complete crapshoot.
That's always been the motto for me with BGS, which is weird. I think it's why I always said I think I was like destined to enjoy their games, because I'll see online like, people are like, fucking broken game, and I'm watching like a dragon in Skyrim swing around in reverse, and I'm like, yeah, that would take me out of it too. But I'm like, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's a game. It's a game of chance, man. Like with those types of things. It's weird because like I have a similar experience where like I had no bugs at all, like the entire time.
Yeah,
and so like I was having a pretty good time. Like, and it hit me at a good time too. Where I know a big disappointment for that game was the lack of traditional Bethesda exploration, where like you go off into the horizon and you find like really meaty story things. Like this game hit me at a point where like I was specifically so tired of open world games, to the point where to get a Bethesda game like this, where it was like hub cities and everything was like really focused, felt really nice. It felt like a change of pace, where it was like, oh my god, thank god I don't have to meander into the fucking
spoke to my taste more, right? Like that's how I feel. I never liked super big open Bethesda style open. I enjoy, but like I realized as the years go on and I play more and more open world stuff, like it was one of the things I liked about Final Fantasy 16. I'm like, oh nice, like it's open hubs. Like I like open hubs. I don't want, or zones. I don't want massive sprawling multi-biome open worlds all the time. It's just it's too much.
Yeah,
too much.
That's totally fair.
It works. I could totally see why people would be disappointed, especially because of all the. I mean, there were some great open world games, like Zelda was brought up. Obviously, Zelda's great, but like I think that is one of those things where it's like I played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for a pretty long time, but I immediately there was a point in it where I was like, damn, I wish I didn't play Breath of the Wild. Because like this would feel extra new.
Sure, yeah.
But like now I'm just like, oh, here's this place again.
Yeah, totally.
And there's like a familiarity to it, and that was a little disappointing. But those mechanics, specifically, even just something as like simple as like diving through the ceiling, was so fucking cool to me.
Yeah,
I love that shit.
So cool.
Dude, you can make like a dick robot shoot fire at people. It's like
very Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
Yeah, but good actually. It's like, how could you not love that shit?
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff. Okay, Matty, dude.
Hello.
Before we get into this topic, this has been a series that people have been yelling at me to play for multiple years.
Oh, I think I know where we're going.
Yeah. So this is going to be The Cell. I hear these are all great games, all of them. There are a lot of them, but which is okay. That's not a big problem for me. So I want to hear you talk about Legends of the Heroes Trails Through Daybreak.
Okay, yeah. So this has been the main one I've been playing these last couple of weeks. For those who don't know, I've been a massive fan of the Trails series for a while. It is a JRPG series spanning back to, I believe, 2004 with the first Trails in the Sky game. And since then, they've done, I'm thinking of Western releases, I believe 11 games come this June, with Daybreak being the latest. And there's already Crimson Sin is the sequel to Daybreak. That's already out in Japan, and they're working on the next one called Kai no Kaseki, the beginning. So there's already two inbound. So you have, if you end up liking this, and there's more on the way that you'll be able to play. So how I sell people this, and Brad, I think it'll be an easy sell for you because I know you're a One Piece fan, and I tell people it's kind of like the One Piece of JRPGs in that journey you go on. Like, this is going to take a while no matter what. There's no easy path, any shortcuts really. You just got to go through it. The most encouraging thing I can tell people is if you're into JRPGs, it's not like every single one of these games is your bona fide 90-hour JRPG length. In fact, there are only 2 games in the series that go close to that hour clock, and they're in the Cold Steel Saga. The biggest problem that's happened with this series, it kind of got localized in reverse. Like the start of the series in Sky 1, 2, and 3, you can really only play it on Steam, which isn't ideal. Like they need to bring those to consoles, but you can play Zero and Azure, which are the games that take place after those 3, and they're on consoles and Switch, PlayStation, PC. So I tell people that it's definitely worth hunting them all down for and playing them on these different platforms if you can. The reason for is it's all interconnected. What I find particularly refreshing about Trails now is, right now we were just talking about Dead Space remake, Resident Evil remake. It's like we have Zelda reusing a map effectively, and some people can be tired of seeing like the same thing over and over or restarting a thing that they already knew. Whereas Trails is doing, I think they're the only one doing it, is they're just continuing to release games in this same continuous storyline that's interconnected across this entire continent. So there are like beginning points, like you could start at 0, or you could start in Cold Steel 1, or you could start with Daybreak this June. All the most ideal part is starting at Sky and just going all the way through. You get that long-term investment reward, but you can get it at any point. And that's what I really love about the series is like you get this continuous story, like a long book, just a new chapter in the book with an end in sight, might I add, by the point I'm at. Like you can see like, okay, we're getting somewhere with this. And it's a treat to see it evolve. You start off with this sprite-based game and you look at Daybreak, which is this brand new engine that they're building it on, and it's got a hybrid between action and turn-based combat. It's phenomenal. It for anyone who's seen Metaphor ReFantazio, the combat's very similar. And Trails was doing it first. So that was like, they kind of paved the way. And I think a lot of companies borrow more ideas than people are aware of from Falcom. What's also impressive, this is an indie team. Like if anyone looks up a trailer for Trails Through Daybreak, even if you're not a JRPG fan, I think you can appreciate what you're seeing because that's from a team of 60 people. It's a really small team in considering what they're making and how many games they make at once. Like they're not just running Trails and that's it. Like they're doing Ys as well, which is more of their like action adventure series, which is getting its 10th entry in the West soon. So yeah, like they're crazy. I don't know how the hell they do it, but I've not played much of Ys, but yeah, Trails is just like, I've loved this series for a while. I played like 7 games of the series in a year. Like it's super worth it is what I tell people all the time. There's really, in my opinion, only one, I say bad in quotes, game in the series. And I think that's Cold Steel 4 because of narrative reasons, not because of gameplay. Like they're all polished, really fun to play turn-based games, very dialogue heavy, very much world building heavy, to the point where the first Sky game is like all about world building, all until the very end. It's literally very little character driven, very much world driven. And that's the toughest part of the ride, I think, is getting in and going, why am I spending like 35 hours learning about this world? But then everything is built off of the back of that game. It's insane. So it's really an impressive feat what they've accomplished, and it requires patience, but I think the payoffs are always there. They're always there delivering a big narrative moment that makes you thankful that you are still playing. And so Daybreak has been more of that, except like the combat's amazing. They have this new morality system they added. So now you make choices at the end of the quest. You can do like law, gray, and chaos. So you can choose to like fuck people's day up. It's a lot more maturely written, which is something I don't think you could really say about the Cold Steel saga. There's like people dying, blood everywhere. It's crazy, man. Like it's a fucking awesome game. I'm about 20 hours into it right now, and I've just been enjoying I've been savoring it, like every step of the way, just really enjoying it, where it's going to be another moment. You're going to just hear me on like Defining Duke and my respective channels being like, if you're sleeping on this series and you like JRPGs, might be time to start giving it a look. The big question is always like, can I start at Daybreak? And I'm like, it's not ideal. There's going to be things you're going to not understand at all. But I guess the goal, Falcom always says, like, well, hopefully you get interested and you want to just go back to the old stuff, right, and learn what happened before then. And that's like, I've had friends who've done that too. It's like an interesting journey that way too. I don't think it takes a ton away, but there's that, you're missing that moment of like when someone appears from like the second game in the series, you're like, oh shit. And it's not just like a cameo kind of thing. It's like they're a major piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
No one feels wasted. So apologies for rambling, but yeah, Trails Through Daybreak has been great. I've been loving it.
Yeah. So with so many different Trails games over the years, what would you say Daybreak specifically brings to the table to help set it apart from the other ones?
I would say the gameplay and pacing. I think Trails, as much as I'm okay with dialogue heavy stretches, I love watching characters interact and just it brings me into the world more. Trails does go a little overboard with it during certain stretches, more in the early days where they'll just talk about whatever for like 5 minutes, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're just tabbing through dialogue that whole time, it can feel like a bit much. It can feel like, why are we doing this? A lot of times they do make you realize, oh, that's why they did it. And so you start to learn, it's like a learned patience. But what Daybreak does is it paces it out better. There's really long stretches of gameplay. You're not fading in and out of combat screens. Instead, like every battle takes place in the overworld. So you'll be running. You can, again, it's an action turn-based hybrid system. So you'll like slash an enemy up. You'll weaken them. Maybe you'll stun them. And then you can activate the turn-based combat and like delay their turn as you begin the fight. And then it goes into turn-based. And even then, it's more active turn-based where you can like run around in this space, like choose your positioning. It's really just super engaging gameplay. And when you combine that with like, I liked Cold Steel as a saga, which really spans 5 games. But it's written in a particular way that's at times predictable outside of Reverie, which I think is really good. But Cold Steel, I think, loses some of what makes the series special. And I feel like Daybreak is a return to like where they were with Sky, which was like this very maturely written game that just goes to dark places and has a much like a story to tell on a bigger and smaller scale. So yeah, to me, it's the narrative pacing and absolutely the gameplay.
Cool. Turd Ferguson wrote in, "Hey guys, do you think the Trails series will ever take the next step into the mainstream like Persona 5 did for Persona? Some people call Trails the poor man's Persona, but I think that's doing a disservice to the Trails. To Trails. Sure, Trails has a smaller or similar social link mechanics to Persona, but it's also its own thing. I think the biggest strength to the world building is the world building and the connected narrative through a dozen plus games. Also, shout out to the music in Trails, which I think is fantastic.
So fucking good.
Yeah, what could they do, Matty, to get that moment of their P5 moment? Because Persona,
a Smash character appearance.
Yeah, the character like Persona, you don't really need to play the other ones. I guess you can usually hop into them. Do you think if they do something like that for one of them, they could get like a huge new audience?
Maybe they've done games that kind of feel like one-offs, or could like I think Daybreak will be a real big test for them because I feel like that's going to be a lot of people's entrances to the series. And it feels like the beginning of a new arc. Like as I'm playing it, you know, someone who's played all these games, there are like threads being pulled and character returns and appearances that like, as someone who's been a long time fan, I'm going, oh shit. But like, if you're not, I think you're not going to lose anything, which is the style of storytelling they've shifted to. At the same time, I'm hesitant to say yes, because I feel like that's where you lose your identity. Like what makes Trails something that people talk about is, oh, this is a narrative that spans all these games. And it's, you know, you could have started this journey 20 years ago today.
Right.
And it's still going and it's still worth it. And it's still good. That's rare. Whereas Persona can say like, you can hop into the newest game, which is its own strength. I think they could invest in more style and flair. I think that's where they're maybe missing the mark, where Persona, I think people just love that game because of the menus. And I say as someone who's a diehard Persona fan, like those are slip and slides, man. Like just watching these effects and characters splash across the screen with style. Like it's seriously incredible artistic visionaries there at Atlas. And I think they're kind of missing that with Trails. I think they're doing better presentation wise with Daybreak. It took them 11 games to get there. So that's the problem, I think. And if they can continue to up the production value, like if Daybreak sells decently for them, then that should symbolize that was kind of what the missing piece of the formula was. So yeah, that's what I would say is I think that would help them out a lot. I also will say Game Pass. I think Yakuza was a great series that no one knew about, and now it's like one of the most talked about in our industry. And I think it's because of Game Pass. I think Game Pass gave that series a ton of visibility. People tried it and said, I love it. And they're buying the next one. That's why they put The Man Who Erased His Name on Game Pass to kind of get people ready to go out and buy the next mainline entry. And I feel like Trails is really missing out on a huge player base that would invest in them if they just put those games on Game Pass. Because that visibility, they're growing. Like they've sold a total, last I checked, of like 7 million units across the series history, but 2 million of those have come in the last couple of years. So that's really good, right? Like that's a pretty big upswing. I just think now it's like, okay, if you got momentum, like you're a small team, you're an indie team, start working with Xbox, porting these over and put them on Game Pass. Like it's only money to gain from my standpoint. We'll see. But that would definitely be my personal take on things.
Yeah, you're totally right, by the way.
Yeah.
I think I had no interest at all in Yakuza until I saw all of them on Game Pass.
Like, why not, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh well, why not? Sure, I'll try this out, and I loved it. Like it was so. That was one of the most unique experiences I think I ever had was playing Like a Dragon. And I was just like, this is crazy that there's a whole. Like I couldn't believe this.
Yeah. Do you think a reason that hasn't happened is, Matty, is because the series is spread across so many different platforms, and they don't have like every game on one kind of platform thing?
Maybe. See, the reason I say maybe is everything from 0 and on is on PS4 or Switch. There's like caveats though, like Cold Steel 1 and 2 aren't on Switch. I just talked about the Sky trilogy. That's really only on Steam. You could play it on your PS Vita, but you're missing a lot of key features and localization efforts that just aren't there, that are better on PC. That plus turbo mode, which is like a necessary feature in Trails to just keep that pacing up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, like I still feel like, yeah, just if they could get at least the older games like Sky 1 through 3 on current platforms, that'd be a good step, because at least then you could tell new fans like, hey, if you own a PlayStation or you own a Switch, start Trails with Sky and you can go all the way through. But right now it's like, oh, well, I start with 0. I start with the 4th game in the series. I'll just wait for Sky. I think that's what a lot of people probably end up doing, and I can't blame them. Like, no one wants to play a handheld game, by the way, on your PC and then move over to your console and then move back to the PC.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in the ass, right? People want it all in one place, and that's what they're missing. They're just a little too scattered.
Yeah, they need like how the Kingdom Hearts collections, I guess, exist.
Yes, 100%.
They just need
100%.
that. Cool. So, Matty, if I get into these games, PC's the way to go, then it seems like for now.
I would agree. Yeah, just PC, it's all there, and it's all good. So, you'd be good there.
One last question. Dave Ramos wrote in, hey, Matty, like you, I'm a diehard Trails fan. One issue I've had with the series is I found the beginning of each arc to be painfully slow. Often the games do not get going or interesting about 10 hours in. From your experience so far, how does Daybreak's introduction compare to the opening hours of previous arcs?
Way better. Way better. I agree with that, by the way. Like even Reverie, which is like one of my favorite Trails games, that was also in my top 5 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was number 4. The first 10 hours are pretty slow. It's like, it's weird because there are moments in the series where they understand like, oh, hey, this is a continuation of the last game. Let's get going quick.
Right.
And there's moments like Reverie or Sky 2 where it's like, oh, let's just fucking piss away 10 hours. Why not? And it's frustrating. I will just say that Daybreak does not do that. Daybreak throws you into the mixed thick of things. Its biggest issue, I think, early on is the dungeon design is really fucking bland. Like it throws it back to, I think of Tales of Berseria. I don't know if you guys have played that game, but like just plain concrete walls for the most part. Like it, you can tell because they're an indie team and they like just moved to a new engine. Like a lot of the city spaces and a lot of the combat has been greatly upgraded, but that's the sacrifices. The dungeons aren't as visually stimulating, but you get a better paced narrative. It gets going quicker. They build up the party pretty steadily. And so, yeah, I think by the end of the first chapter, you'll be very pleased with how things are going.
How often do they come out with new games?
Right now, annually.
like every year?
Yeah, at least in the West. There are a couple of games ahead right now in the East, so they're just porting them over here. So like last year in June was Reverie. This year in probably June is going to be Daybreak, and like so on and so forth. I think the only time they had an off year was during the pandemic.
Okay.
That was a cold.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll get to a point where it might be better for them to hold off on getting one out so quickly and just really focusing on that one.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe it makes sense for them financially. I have no idea.
Yeah, they do this dual sort of development that I don't quite understand for such a small team to be working on 2 franchises at once. And like the fact that they made Daybreak, and if anyone looks up East 10, like it's insane what these games are doing. And it's like, oh, if these are like 2 full 60-man teams, I get it. But the fact that it's a 60-man team split in half, I guess it's split in half. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but it's incredible what they're doing.
Yeah, and I hear good things about all of those games. So they're a special team.
So
they got something going. All right, Chris. Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah.
You've been going back in time. Dude, I haven't played this game since it came out, so I'm so curious to see what you're playing.
I never finished it.
And why are you playing it right now? What's about it? What is about it that you're coming back to?
I think it's a combination of things. I think just obviously the hype of GTA 6 is palpable.
Sure.
Like especially when that trailer dropped, it was like, I think it's still like how many views does that trailer have? Like some obnoxious amount of views.
Insane amount of numbers.
It broke records. Grand Theft Auto, it's weird. It's a series that I don't necessarily have a lot of nostalgia for or a lot of reverence for. I messed around with San Andreas when I was a kid, but I wasn't playing it for the story really. Rockstar didn't really speak to me. And even GTA 5, which was huge when that came out, I played it for a little bit. I enjoyed. I had some fun with the online, but the story didn't click with me. And for a long time, I wrote a lot of Rockstar games off until Red Dead Redemption 2. It was one of the first games that me and Colin did as a. Because it was that game came out the year that we started Sacred Symbols, and so it was like one of the first real games. It was a game that I normally, like, if left to my own devices, probably would have skipped entirely, just based on my history with Rockstar. And now I had this obligation to play it and like finish it as like a job. And I was like, all right, well, I guess this is going to be a big game, so we should talk about it. And I played it, and I adored it in a way that I was really shocked by. Like, I didn't anticipate loving it as much as I did from like a narrative perspective. Even some of the gameplay quirks that like normally would have frustrated me, like, oh my God, why does it take so long to search a drawer? For some reason, it worked for, like, it grabbed me. I was like, yeah, I'm a cowboy. Yeah, I'm really here.
Hell yeah.
It did this weird, this weirdly good job of doing this heavy lifting of getting me immersed in that setting. And it's a setting that I don't normally care for. I don't really like Westerns really at all. And so that was fascinating to me. It's like, wow, was this here the entire time? And I just didn't have the patience to get through them. In the past, I was just sort of dicking around with the physics of it. And so like I've gotten into this mode. It's like and especially with obviously GTA 6 out, and I'm like, I kind of want to go through them again. Not necessarily the ones that I missed. I think San Andreas might be like in Vice City and 3. I think those are games that probably I would maybe be able to go back to if I grew up with them a little bit more, but those feel specifically dated in a way. But I remember Grand Theft Auto 4. Like, I remember playing a little bit of the story and kind of falling off and not really caring, or just like jumping into the online with friends and messing around a lot in Grand Theft Auto 4. Especially because it took place in New York City, Liberty City, where I'm from. Like, that was like a big kind of connecting point to it. And so I decided to jump through it again and actually finish it. I'm still working my way through it. I'm doing like maybe like a mission every day or every 2 days. But I am so surprised at the narrative that's here and how thick it is and how serious it is. I love the angle of this, like this coming to America, like Nico Bellic being this immigrant kind of coming to the United States and falling into this life. I think it's a lot more interesting than previous protagonists that are just sort of like already here, or even future protagonists in Grand Theft Auto 5, where they're all Americans. Like, there's something interesting about that angle of coming here from somewhere else, escaping the war, and like the dark tone, but it's still got these moments of levity. It's still got this insane Grand Theft Auto flavor. The physics engine in Grand Theft Auto 4 is it's so unbelievably overclocked. I love it. Like crashing into a car with like a motorcycle and then watching Nico fly 50 miles.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. That's good. And it's so fun. And there's even like stuff in the base game mechanics that weren't in 5 that I was kind of surprised by, because I remember it being there. But like there's parkour kind of in Grand Theft Auto 4, like where you could like grab onto ledges and hoist yourself up. And like I remember specifically that being like a weird kind of like limiting point of 5 that made it a little bit less engaging to me. I think there were some points in 5 you could climb, but it was like a lot more specific. But this is like any ledge you could climb, and like there's a level of freedom and density in Liberty City where you can go into buildings and go through the other side, and there's like subways and trains, and it's such a dynamic area. And the hardware that it's on, I would say maybe limits it for sure, because New York is not that empty. for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely like there's concessions made, but I think they made like a really amazing world here that I just didn't really have the patience to really sit through when I was a kid, and I was just looking for, you know, just hijinks and explosions and like put C4 on the ambulance, you know. I didn't care to really stop and smell the roses, if you will, I guess. And even I find myself just taking taxis everywhere and just listening and just looking outside and like seeing people fighting on the street and and listening to the radio. The radio is so out of pocket. And I don't think I ever really listened to it. But it's like they've got like radio stations where they're like interviewing. They've got like a pedophile debating an alcoholic, and like just insane. It's so awesome, like that it was written this way, and that there's still this like serious undertone to it. It's probably the most well balanced Rockstar game I've seen in terms of like tone, because it juggles between that levity and that seriousness really kind of effortlessly. And there's definitely aspects of the gameplay that are a little bit dated for sure. Like locking on is super weird and a little fidgety, but I'm really enamored with it in a way that I'm kind of surprised I didn't notice before. It's making me a lot more curious about even Grand Theft Auto 5, which I feel like I still would like less, but I definitely didn't give the game a fair shake either when that was out. And so I'm just kind of in this mode where I want to go through these again.
Cool.
And give them their time in the sun.
Yeah, I remember GTA 4. I remember being blown away by like the cell phones or whatever, and like people calling you and stuff like that. I just thought that was insane at the time. Like, what's that guy's name? Jacob or something?
Oh yeah, little Jacob
calling you. I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, you talk to people on the phone in older games, but it felt like I could just call him or something like that. I remember being impressed with that. Yeah,
and they're like loyalty. There's all this stuff like I didn't know about. Like there's like loyalty missions basically. And I didn't even think about that even being a layer of a game like this, where like if you do enough missions for like little Jacob, he'll unlock like a gameplay mechanic for you. And I had no fucking idea.
That shit.
I had no idea that like when I played it originally, I was like, who are these people calling me? Leave me alone. I want to drive cars into walls.
Don't want to go bowling.
Yeah, cousin, let's go bowling. No, but yeah, the characters are great. They're all just so over the top, and it's so. I love the way it's written. It's written in. It's hard to describe really, but it's written in this very kind of almost like if Goodfellas was like a satire of itself.
Yeah,
it's so fun to watch these characters. Like
that's GTA. That was kind of, I guess, the start of that formula of writing.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm enamored with it. The physics engine, especially.
Yeah, physics are super fun.
Big shout out. I love my physics in games. It's something I always keep an eye out for. Like a really robust physics engine. Oh, that's meat.
Matty, what do you think about GTA 4?
I don't know if I can add much to it, man, because I've not played much of it. I've not even finished it. I think it was born out of like in middle school when GTA 4 came out. My friend was like the Rockstar guy, so he was playing like all these Rockstar games, and like I was the Bethesda guy, so I was playing all the Bethesda games, and we just never switched sides. Like that was just it. Like his style of open world was Rockstar. I was like, yeah, that's trash, and then like I just go play Bethesda games. And so yeah, like I was looking at GTA 4 as a game I should get around to within the next year or so. Seeing GTA 6, like I am weird in that, and I totally understand that this is weird. Like I'm very indifferent to most of Rockstar's things. I thought Red Dead 2 is fantastic. I'd say out of the two between Red Dead and GTA, Red Dead's always spoken to me more. And if anything, if I have a series I really love from Rockstar, it's Bully, which they've only done one of. Like Bully was the game that came from them that I still to this day think is so funny and charming. You know, I think it was living out when you play that game as a fucking kid, especially me, just this twerpy nerd. Like I'm just like, oh, I get to be the fucking badass. Like I get to shove someone in a locker if I want to. I can punch a teacher in the face. Why not? And just run away. I can shoot some nerd with a potato gun like that. I don't know. It just spoke to the bully fantasy. Yes. I enjoyed the hell out of that game, man. Like it was definitely a neutered GTA to many, but I thought it was brilliant. Like I love the story even. So that one just resonated with me a ton. Whereas like GTA, you know, I can't act like it's because it's bad or anything. It's more like, of course it's not bad, but I think it's just a lack of experience, and I got to give it an honest try. Like I've not played GTA 3. I've not played Vice City. I played San Andreas. I like that game a lot. But more so, I thought it was just cool that you could make CJ fat. Like that was cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, like, oh wow, you can just go eat cheeseburgers and make them out of shape, and it affects the gameplay. I'm like, this is awesome. And like people will comment on your weight. It's hilarious. So like I'm not really well versed in GTA beyond 5, which is definitely in San Andreas, which is definitely a gaming sin for many. But I don't know, series never called my name much. But I've played other crime shooters. Like I loved Sleeping Dogs. I loved Mafia. You know, like those games I did attach myself to and enjoy a lot.
Yeah, it's I'm in the same kind of boat. Like I didn't really, it was a very, like San Andreas was the one that was pivotal that I remember, like when we were young or when we were kids. I remember that being like a very big deal. But even that, like I would just put cheats in and like fly a plane into the ground. You know, like I wouldn't really, it was a sandbox more than it was like an actual game. And apparently, like, I didn't know this, but GTA 4 is like the black sheep, I guess, of that entire series. There's something about it that like it's not talked about as much, or it's very, and I think it's because of the tone. It's like a lot more serious, even though I think it's still ridiculous. Like it's still there's still like it is still a very absurd game, but there's a cloud around GTA 4 that makes it kind of like the odd man out, which is strange because I feel like it's the one that. And maybe this could be just like a New York thing too. Like maybe it's just the fact that it is Liberty City, and maybe that I have a connection with it in that sense. But back then it spoke to me the most, and even in its limited capacity. But now it's speaking to me quite a bit. Like I love this immigrant angle like so much. I think it's so fascinating.
I think Nico's amazing.
Yeah, he's a great character.
Yeah, it's weird. 4 never got. Obviously it did really well, but it never got like different ports and stuff like 5 did, you know.
Yeah, it's stranded.
3 platforms.
It's stranded on the
stranded. Yeah,
it's stranded on the 360 and PS. Like, thank God for the Series X backwards compatibility. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have even remotely been able to get to
PC. But I don't know how good it is. But
that PC version's fucked.
I think it deserves a little more than what it has right now, because it is a really great game.
Yeah.
You guys ever played the expansions for them? Just real quick. Sorry,
I actually never played them.
I did. I remember, and this is totally a connection to me in a way that I definitely can't. I'm probably biased towards this game in some way, because Grand Theft Auto 4, I think they came out with it was Lost in the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony, those expansion packs. And they came out with them on disc in a thing called, I think, Liberty City Stories. I think it was like Grand Theft Auto 4 and then those 2 DLCs.
Right.
And that was the first game that I bought. It was the first rated M game that I bought by myself.
Whoa.
Because I had just turned 17 when it came out or something. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy a rated M game by myself, and there's nothing they can do. And so like that was a special time for me. Like I think Ballad of Gay Tony, I think, was awesome. Yeah. I don't remember Lost in the Damned too much. I'm not really I don't know, motorcycles don't really biker cult, like the whole biker thing, like doesn't do much for me. That's why Days Gone was dead in the water for me.
That's where my brain went right away. I was like, Days Gone.
Yeah, it's like immediately. But yeah, those expansions were dope. Yeah, Ballad of Gay Tony I remember having a lot of fun with. But yeah, maybe I'll get to those too, because it's been a long time.
Yeah, everyone told me Ballad of Gay Tony is like the best of those.
Yeah,
so I'm sad I never played them. But I guess I could go back.
Yeah.
All right. Your boy Nikki V wrote in. All right, here we go.
I bet this write-in is very, very decorated with expletive content. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Gooch Slurper Brad.
Oh, God.
Titty Gobbler Matty and Silly Chris. First of all,
why
is he just a Silly Chris? And Titty Gobbler is much better than Gooch Slurper.
Gooch Slurper is fucking heinous. What does this guy what does he have to say? What does this freak have to say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is kind of hostile. Brad and Matty, can we burst Chris's bubble on GTA 4? He and Colin are constantly slow jerking it to this pile of trash on Sacred Symbols, calling it a masterpiece and a beloved entry, etc. It's easily the most divisive entry in the series. The driving was shovelware quality.
That's crazy.
And Rockstar couldn't even be bothered to build a competent aiming system. Instead of offering us third-person auto-aim in a post-RE4 and Gears of War world. Not to mention the awkward movement and boring-ass story scenarios. They took the fun out of GTA. No. Sexually yours, Nick.
Sounds like my kind of GTA game, man. Like... I love the story stuff.
Yeah, the story stuff's great. It's I don't know, man. I think I don't know. I love the driving because it's so fucking weird. It is so the cars are so heavy. Like
it's like driving a boat.
Yeah, they're not easy to drive at all, and that it makes you more prone to accidents, which is just fun. Like I don't know. I love it, but yeah. I mean the auto aim, the aiming system's terrible, like no doubt. But like I honestly don't even think it's all that much better in Red Dead Redemption 2 either. Like I feel like Rockstar's third-person shooting is probably like the weakest aspect of every one of their
games.
Like,
yeah,
it ain't Gears of War, man. It ain't Resident Evil 4. It ain't any of these. But neither has any of the ones. It's a weird thing to pin on GTA 4 specifically because that's just true of all of them. Like they have terrible aiming, like undoubtedly.
Maybe they get like less terrible though.
Maybe a little bit, but like only in the visuals of it. Like GTA 4 is like a little jank because it's got like the circle and it's just kind of like it's. But like Red Dead is the same. It's just got like it's just less obtrusive. It's just a dot. So it doesn't feel as big of like a mistake. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely divisive. I don't think we necessarily called it beloved. We specifically talked about like how it's like kind of like the black sheep. Even I just talked about that, but. I really love it because it's so weird and out there and it is different than the other GTAs, and I appreciate that about it. It's I don't know, it's special in a weird way that I didn't anticipate it being.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you guys were constantly slow jerking it. Or
that's crazy.
Like that.
That's a good. I gotta add that to my vocabulary. That's a good term.
Yeah.
Slow jerking.
And Alex Roberts wrote in, "Hey guys, congrats on the new show, Brad. Thank you. GTA 4 is easily my favorite GTA game, and what set us apart from me is the story. Following Nico Bellic's rise through the criminal underworld is dark, funny, and depressing all at the same time. And the perspective of an Eastern European war veteran settling into America is still unique to this day. The cast of supporting characters is vast and memorable. And I love the way that the main story expertly interweaves with the equally high-quality DLC. That followed later down the line. I replayed the entire game and its expansions last year, and it's still an absolute blast. How does this game hold up for you guys, and where do you think it stands on the pantheon of GTA games?"
Yeah. It's hard for me to answer that because I really have limited experience. It's right. My favorite by default. You know, I still have to get through 5. I still anticipate that this is probably like there is something about these characters, man. Like Nico is so cool. Like and not cool. Just like not just like oh what a badass. It's just like genuinely like he's there's moments in this game where he's just like having like just straight up therapy. Like, he's just like, man, it's oh man, is it worth it, man? Like, whoa. Yeah. And then and Roman's just not listening, or he's asleep. Or it's great. And yeah, the Eastern European slant on it is fascinating. It's and I do think the vocal performance helps as well. Like there's something about the actor who does Nico's voice that's like really like it helps to have a protagonist with like a unique kind of like if you can't do that accent without anybody thinking it's Nico, you know what I mean? Like it's so emblematic of that character, and other GTAs, you know, they have that to lesser degrees, I think, but like there's everything that Nico says is said with such confidence and such this underpinning of not angst, but like there's a somberness to it everything he says, and it's even when he's being a smart ass and funny, it's great. Yeah, I'm glad that people are revisiting it. Or I just wish, man, I wish we had like a proper port, because I think it deserves one. I think GTA 4 absolutely deserves a port, and it deserves a way better port for sure than those Grove Street remaster. So in some ways, maybe I'm glad that it didn't, because like it would be so sad to see that. I think the only real gripe that I have with it is just true of a lot of games of that era, and it's just like there's like it's not necessarily what I would call a piss filter, but
no, yeah, it's the piss filter. Yeah, absolutely. Resident Evil 5's got it.
It is dire and kind of grim and gray.
Mm-hmm.
But it also does, I don't know, there's something about it where it's like, it's one of those weird kind of things where this would normally be a problem if not for the fact that it works really well with like the somewhat grimdark tone, and the fact that it is Liberty City, which is just gray. Like New York is very gray, Manhattan specifically. But it would be cool to maybe have like a little bit more color in there, or like maybe some more variances of time of day and stuff. But that's, I don't know. I actually think based on just the amount of games that I've played lately that are a lot more colorful, and this is kind of the trend now, is it's a lot of color, a lot of splash. Going back to a game like this where it actually fits the tone and kind of fits the setting actually doesn't really bother me at all. It kind of works a lot better now than I think it did at the time, where I think it was lumped into like Gears of War and Resident Evil 4.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it probably holds up very nice from art direction perspective and color tones now.
Yeah.
And really works. Because like, I don't think every game needs to be gray or every game needs to be a bunch of color. Just whatever works for that world.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, dudes, we are going to be talking about something I've been playing, which is Sea of Stars.
Oh, okay.
So this game came out a while ago. I never got to it. Just had other stuff I had to play. But now, finally getting a chance to dive into this game. And for someone like me who really loves a lot of the Super Nintendo era RPGs, the Chrono Triggers, Super Mario RPGs, this game is definitely pandering to me in many ways. But I'm only 3 hours in, though. So things could change. But basically, I don't know. Have any of you guys played this?
I played about 10 hours of it. And
so
I want to hear from you first, but I ended up dropping it.
So I'm only 3 hours in so far. But the main characters you got are Zale. He has the power of the sun, kind of like they're the solstice warriors, and they have powers of the sun and the moon. Valerie, who has the moon, and their pal Garl, who is not a solstice warrior, but he's like their lovable brute chef who can cook them all this delicious food, which I love. So far, I'll say with a lot of the characters is the two main characters you could play as, or you could pick to play as, Zale or Valerie's, like, they don't have a lot of personality yet, where I feel like I can't really figure out who they are. Granted, I'm still very early, but I still feel like I don't really have a good sense of who they are. While meanwhile, with Garl, I'm like, I know exactly this kind of guy. Very lovable, happy, always looking out for the team. But what I do like about this game is the turn-based combat. Obviously, you could see enemies on the field like Chrono Trigger, running into them, setting that up. You can get a little bonus attack in there if you actually hit it before the counter starts. And it does the Mario RPG combat in the sense where it's turn-based, but there are button prompts, and doing the button prompts increases everything higher values. So one of like Zale's, he could like charge up a big fireball, like some Frieza fireball, dude. You can hold it and release it at a certain time like that. Valerie has this cool like moon boomerang that like flips back and forth. It's like
I love it.
Ocarina of Time, you know, when you're fighting Ganondorf, you're hitting stuff back and forth at each other.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's what it reminds me of a lot. And Garl, he has like not as many cool skills like that yet, but he can heal, which is really nice. And there's also these combo moves that are essentially dual techs from Chrono Trigger, where you can do multi-attacks with people.
Yeah.
I'm always a sucker for. And also one more thing I've learned is like when you hit an enemy, just the normal attack, they drop these little orbs, and you can store these into your character to power them up. You can do that to up 3, so you can strategically like wait for a moment where a boss is vulnerable and grab them all really quick and do like a super hard hitting attack to do like total, a lot of damage, which I do like. And interesting, when you go down or a party member dies, they will get back up after a certain amount of time automatically.
That's my favorite part of the game.
Yeah. So when they're down, there's like stars spinning above their head, which really nice effect, and they go away per turn, and they get back up. The world itself is fucking gorgeous. Like, I think this game looks fantastic. I like the HD 2D games from Square, but I really want them to make a game that looks like this. Like with like the sprite work, I would really love to see them do something like this. So I got to a dungeon early on. It's like in this mole village or something. They said some guys in some dungeon fucking shit up.
Yeah.
You got to go in there. I'm like, all right. What I was surprised about and pleased about is you're going through this dungeon and you're kind of carving out certain sections. You know, you go northwest, finish that off. It kind of dumps you back into the center. You go a different way. And I was wondering, there's these objects I couldn't interact with, and I was wondering, I'm like, oh, they're gonna do the Zelda thing where you get an item or something to help you get through the dungeon. They do. I got like a wind gauntlet where I could push these big blocks around to solve puzzles. And I will say about the puzzles is I like them. They're mostly just little tiny brain teases so far that are nothing. You like never get stuck, I would say, for very long. Just like figuring out certain angles that I really appreciate. And what I also like about this game, it seems to be a lot of verticality. Your characters are constantly jumping through stuff. They're climbing a lot of stuff. They're sliding down stuff. You're swimming through stuff. Or they're just like really small elements like that to me to help make the characters feel more part of the world and going through it. Let's see. Oh, one thing I do love about the combat is in these combat encounters with these characters, sometimes enemies, they have counters above their head, see how many moves they have left before they attack. Some of them you can interrupt. They have little like graphs that appear above them, like a sword icon and like two hammers. So what that means is you need to hit one with the sword and two hammer strikes, and it'll interrupt their attack. So you can avoid some nice damage there. But they also put you in positions where you might not be able to do all of that perfectly. You may have to you have to make a sacrifice on another character. So it's not always like the easiest solution or an instant win, I would say, which I do like. It makes you make choices. Cool little activities I've encountered is like a fishing hole. Just went out there fishing, catching some fish, man. And you get them, you go back to your campfire, and you start like cooking the meals for everybody, which I really like. So you can have some healing items. I also like that you can only have 10 food items right now. So you can't be like stacked for like ever with items. So you got to like constantly cook, which is really nice. But yeah, I've been going through that dungeon. There was a cool little, he's like a salamander mini dungeon boss. He just fucking bursts out of the wall or some shit.
Yeah.
Had to fight him a little bit. And they can be kind of tough if you're not smart. Like I haven't died or anything like that, but they keep me on my toes so far, which has also been really good. But yeah, the game looks fantastic. Obviously, the music too is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, you got some legends on there. I got Yoshiri Matsuda, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Xenogears, he's on there. And this guy called Rainbow Dragon Eyes, I'd never heard of before, but he's also really good. But yeah, I'm only 3 hours in. I'm digging it. I will be curious to see how it will continue to keep me along. Like, is it going to do enough to hook me and to keep going? Because it sounds like, based off you, Matty, you got to a point and you're like, meh.
Yeah, it was last. Well, here's the thing. Like, have you played The Messenger, the game from this team before?
Yes.
Yeah, like I loved how that story was written. It was super funny. It was really witty, really intelligent, and I was getting into that game just because of its approach to art, like how they represented time travel through 8-bit and 16-bit art. I thought that was really intelligent, and it made it a real joy to play. And then they had this great story attached to it that was hilarious, and I didn't expect that at all. So going into Sea of Stars, that was like my biggest point of confidence with the project. I'm like, this could be boring as hell to play, but like that story is going to be awesome. It was kind of the opposite, where like I'm not a Paper Mario kind of fan. Like I don't. Or the Mario RPG stuff. Like I'm not crazy about the kind of gimmicky press a button to stay engaged in turn-based. Like to me, I feel like this is just a weird elitist take. I apologize, but I feel like we're pandering to the wrong people. And we're like, let's put action prompts in our turn-based stuff. Like, just separate them, man. Just separate them. So I see why people dig them because it is a great hybrid. It just never spoke to me. So while I can tolerate that, I've beat games that are like that. Like I liked Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. That was awesome. It comes down to that story. And I found that Sea of Stars just was not written nearly as well. It felt like it was such a drop off to me that it felt like the Messenger was a lightning in the bottle moment instead. And I will just say that with Sea of Stars and its story, like, this is a nitpick. Most people don't care, but also, like, and I'm no grammar Nazi, but like the grammar, the localization efforts, potentially the lack of commas. If you write even a little bit, you'll notice it and be like, why the fuck is that? Why is there not a comma there? And it's not like a once in a while. It's like every other sentence, or it's like, what happened in the editing process here? Which I get. Like, it's not a high priority for some, but like, I feel since this game does have a story focus, it was distracting, but it was, I could overlook that if the quality of the story was good, but I just couldn't get into it eventually. I was like, yeah, this isn't bad, but when I saw the review scores, it did not match. Like, I played it during a little bit after the review process. I was like, this doesn't really match with what I was expecting as a fan and just from seeing the review scores.
Yeah, I definitely ran into a few grammatical errors, but I've been playing, they've patched the game several times, I think, because I'm playing it like just now and it came out a while ago. So I hope they clean some of that up. But yeah, I am just really worried about if this will be enough to hold me from a story front, because it's not really at a story front, but I am very early. And I am hoping the combat doesn't feel super repetitive down the line, because everything else about like the visuals and the world and the music I like adore. So I'm just hoping the quality will improve as I go on, because I'm enjoying it right now, but I'll see as I get further in.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. I kind of fell off too, not necessarily because I wanted to stop, but I had to move on to other things. It's always something. It is something that I'm. It's kind of like in my backlog, and I do plan to finish it, because I don't know. I really, turn-based stuff is not necessarily like the highest genre on my preference list, but there was something about the way this did, and you're probably right, Matty, that they are probably pandering to the wrong crowd with that action stuff. But I do feel like, for me, I was just like, oh, good, I'm a part of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not bad. It just, my main, what are you doing?
Because my main issue with turn-based stuff is, like, I always feel like I'm telling people to do the cool things and I'm not doing the cool things. And so to have some level of agency in that, especially when you get into like a good rhythm-based, like with that moon boomerang, if you can get that timing, right, and you can just get like,
it's fun,
like 50 of them in a row, and it gets like quicker and quicker, there is like a level of satisfaction there that's like really kind of enjoyable and really fun. I don't know how many hours. I think I maybe put 8 or 9 hours into it, which is probably more than it was way more than I was anticipating. But like, I came away feeling like, yeah, this is something that I want to finish for sure, or at least I want to give more time to when I have the time, because I do think it's balancing that turn-based and action in a good way. It doesn't go overboard necessarily too much in one direction, where like certain games can feel a little bit muddied by that. Like, there are certain games where I'm like, you should just have stayed turn-based, like, for sure. But yeah, the music's great. The visuals are fucking great. The story is like, I like it, but I almost wonder if maybe there's a barrier for me with story-based games that I can't hear characters in. Not necessarily that I think they're bad, but like, I definitely don't get as immersed in games that are just text oriented.
Yeah, you get detached.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of a detachment there, which is like, I can deal with that. Like, whatever. I played so many games during the Super Nintendo and, Game Boy Advance, so that like, I liked the stories just fine, but I wasn't necessarily like, it wasn't Red Dead 2, like I wasn't like, whoa, these are real people. So I think the story's probably going to be okay for me, but like, I do think it's probably one of those stories that like, I feel like it's not necessarily the most gripping. So I don't know. It really depends on the person, I think. But
Greg Bruce wrote in, "Hey Brad and guests, Sea of Stars related comment. How did you feel about the combat as the game went on? I love the active input system at the start of the game, but as the hours racked up, it really started to grate on me. For the big drawn out bosses, it was a great experience, but for the normal monsters, it became such a hassle for me, given that many of the moves required build up, which the smaller builds never achieved before things died. I found myself therefore spamming the same moves over and over again. Just wonder if it, since this was the aspect of the game that I was surprised I totally didn't jive with." Yeah, Matty, since you got the furthest, it seems like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I could definitely see. It's one of those things where I'm going based off like telegraphing, right? Like you start to feel some rinse and repeat, which is that could be the death of turn-based. That's the one thing that action has over turn-based, like every day of the week, is like you can get creative with action. With turn-based, it's like, how do you structure your enemies where you're not rinsing and repeating the same attack patterns over and over and over and making the player think. And like I think it comes down to skill rollout from what I experienced, right? Like usually by the 10th hour, you know, in what is apparently like a 25 to 30 hour game, I feel I should be a decent way around my power curve. And obviously there's budget that goes into it, but I feel the skill rollout and the party member rollout, like one of those had to go up to keep the gameplay a little more fresh, I think, in those early goings, where especially skills, like you'll have the same 4 skills for a good chunk of the game. And I think that's because they wanted to design the enemies where it's like, you know, you have to perfect these mechanics rather than giving you more tools to solve problems. And that's where I think that hybrid of action and turn-based betrays the game a bit, because if you just, in my opinion, and this is just from my personal tastes and preferences, like if you went more turn-based, maybe you would have given us more tools and the combat wouldn't have been as stagnated. That's how I felt kind of going into that 10th hour. But I would really say it was the story woes. Like the gameplay was almost a means to an end by a certain degree. But I don't want to speak too authoritatively, just given like it could have picked up for someone like me, or I could have got worse. But usually for me, if a turn-based combat system is like on the downturn, either it takes like a pretty significant mechanic introduction or magic to get it back on the upswing out of nowhere. And so I don't know if my opinion would have improved, but yeah, I definitely by the 10th hour, I was feeling like a little like, all right, you know, fight,
Samey.
Boomerang, fireball, heal maybe, good, moving on.
Yeah.
Do that again.
I get that.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Chained Echoes?
I really want to. Really want to. I've heard that's amazing. It was by like one person, I think, mostly.
Yeah, they it's not really a spoiler, but they introduce, I wouldn't say it is, they introduce later on in the game, you get fucking mechs, essentially.
Oh yeah, because they start the game off with the mechs, right?
Yeah, so it's like, that is like a huge leap in gameplay that's introduced later on. So it sounds like if they probably just had some stuff like that throughout this game, it'd help it a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Nate Christian wrote in, "Precious baby boys, Sea of Stars is an incredible game. However, even on the spoiler cast, no one completed the true ending. My question is twofold. 1, how do you feel about the true endings completing your experience in a game? Personally, the fact that the LSM crew did not do the true ending in the spoiler cast, I feel stifled their full it stifled their full experience. Mostly because the true ending amplified the story as a whole in a whole new way, in my opinion. But at the same time, how can I knock someone when the experience is what you play until the credits roll, and that's that? Do you think the true ending should be continued to be explored, or should they be a thing of the past? Peace and love, and eager to hear your response." I like true endings. It just depends how much of a pain in the ass it is to do, I guess, like that. And if Colin and Micah didn't do it, I assume it was really a pain in the ass. Do you know what I mean? I think like earning your true ending should be challenging and fun, but it shouldn't feel like a chore, I guess, like that. But I'm not sure what the case it is here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I come from the writer's perspective too. as someone like writing a story, and I think about that a lot because it's like you want to have that, like we call it as like a term internally, like the golden route. Like what's the, you get to see smell all the roses along the way, and you get to like kind of the ideal ending. And then the challenge is figuring out how difficult you want to make that be, because usually your golden route's your best swing. So you actually want it to be like the most accessible. And I feel a lot of games tuck it away. And I almost feel like that's a game design trope of yore that needs to kind of be rid of. I think of Lies of P. This isn't a spoiler. You got to lie the whole way through until you get a particular update on your character that says like something's happening with your heart. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get the true ending. FromSoft games are guilty of it too, like very specific choices at very specific moments. Bloodborne, I remember, was kind of a pain in the ass in that regard. Thank God I used cloud saves to reload stuff to get that platinum. So yeah, like I get it, because for some people that extra time spent creates adoration, but I feel as time goes on, I mean, this is kind of my philosophy with a lot of things, game length, now true endings. Like, I don't think a longer game's a problem. I don't think a true ending's a problem. I think the problem is when most people have time for a handful of games, it's a hobby that's a luxury, and people, it's becoming less about having the money to play these games and having the time, and you can't waste their first time because they might not come back. So you need to make it count. So that's how I feel about true endings, in that like there's a place for them. I think if it's attainable and it's easy to get, you probably want to align it, in my opinion, with like the ideal play style. Like if you have a good and bad, you might want to align the true ending with the good choices that people typically make their first way through. So most people, like, you're not going to get everyone, right? People are going to make a different choice along the road. But that, that most people will see that true ending for the most part and have an idea. I think true endings are purposeful if you think there's a future in that series. Like, okay, this is how you get to see what's next. I think the ideal too is like everyone gets a similar ending for the most part, and then everyone gets the epilogue, which sets up the next thing. So that's how I stand on true endings. But I didn't know that Sea of Stars had a true ending, so that's interesting.
Yeah. All right. It's time for you boys to talk to me about the finals. What the hell is this? I know this is a shooter game. Yeah. That's about it.
Oh,
Chris,
man.
Go ahead, because you're the shooter guy, man. Let's hear it.
I am, but this is such a weird one. Because, like, when I was playing it at first, I thought, like, is this an extraction? It's not an extraction shooter. But it's like, it's built around that type of idea. So the core of it is, it's like, it's built by, I think, ex-devs of Battlefield and Mirror's Edge, among others.
Okay.
And you can definitely feel both of those influences, like, really, really heavily throughout it. Oh, yeah. Like, it definitely plays, like, a really nice feeling Battlefield game, but then like the visuals of it are very clean, very, very Mirror's Edge in that sense, where enemy readability is so high. And I love that, because it's something that I specifically don't really like about a lot of modern shooters, especially as we've entered into the PS4 generation and beyond, where like, whoa, everything looks so good. Everything looks so real. And then you have like some fucking guy hiding in a bush, and the bush looks so real that you can't see the fucking guy. And like, it's just, I get it. There's like a place for that for sure, but it's not my ideal. Like I come from like an arena shooter background where like, people stand out. Like the whole point isn't that you're like necessarily hiding.
Want a gunfight.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's interesting. And the fact that this has like Battlefield DNA, which is, I mean, I love Battlefield as well, but like Battlefield is very much that kind of game as well, where it's like, it can be hard to see because it's very grounded in realism. And so people are like hiding and that's fine, because that's that's the experience of Battlefield. That's what they're trying to do. But what I love about this is like, it's got this Battlefield DNA, this swiftness, and this kind of loadout customizability, and this environmental destruction, which is so dynamic and fun. But it's layered on top of this readability.
That's
interesting. So nice.
I didn't know this game had destruction.
Oh, dude.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
It is. It's like the core part of it. Like, so from what I understand, a lot of the destruction is handled server side, and that kind of makes it so everybody sees the same thing. It's not like in Battlefield previously, where you would have like kind of like some destructibility, and it would kind of be wonky because there's peer-to-peer, or like maybe you'd have like very specific set pieces. Like I remember what was that? What was it? The Shanghai
tower
of Shanghai in Battlefield 4. That was awesome, but it was always same. It was the same thing every time. It was a great spectacle, but like this game, like everything with like very few things are not destructible. And so the basic setup is it's depending on what game mode you're playing, it's usually teams of 3 fighting over these cash out boxes, and it's an objective that you have to basically bring to a control point and defend until the timer reaches 0, and then you're playing for money. So every cash out is $10,000, and you win if you get 20. But what's interesting about it is it's not like traditional King of the Hill or capture the flag type thing where it's, if another team takes control of it, then the thing resets and it's all about like getting more score. Basically, like if you start the timing process of capturing a point, that timer is permanent. And so at any point, like if you get 90% of the way done defending your cash out, and then some guy comes in and wipes the floor with you and steals it, he's got like 10% left and they get it.
Yeah.
And I love that. There's like a snakiness to it where you could just be a complete dickhead. You could be like, no, let them take it. And then just plant. And what I love about it is that the destruction is so interactive that oftentimes you can go underneath the cash out point or the objective point, put explosives, blow it up, and then it will fall and it'll tumble and it'll move. And it's difficult to explain why it's so engaging, because it really all comes from the dynamism of the map and how quickly the play space can be transformed. And I feel like it's got the right amount of simplicity layered on top of the right amount of complexity. Like there's build crafting in it, but it's not like Destiny or something, or like a proper RPG where it's like, okay, well, this piece of armor does this, that. It's, if you get a sniper rifle, that's the sniper rifle, and the sniper rifle snipes. Yeah. It's not like, ooh, how can I get a red dot on my sniper rifle? Or like, I hope I get an extended mag. No, the sniper rifle snipes, the pistol is a pistol, the auto pistol is an auto pistol, the submachine gun is a submachine gun, and you only have one weapon every life. And you have like a little bit, you have some equipment, like, and there's 3 different classes. There's light, medium, heavy. Light is fast and weak. Heavy is strong and slow. Medium is well-rounded. They have like a support beam they're like the medic. And so it's really interesting. Like there's enough flexibility there where you can really tailor your own experience, but it's not throwing all these options at you that kind of feel really almost like unnecessary seasoning, where it's like, okay, oh, wow, whoa, here's shoes that make you go 10% faster or something. You know what I mean? There's a simplicity and a complexity in it that I feel is so balanced, especially when the chaos of what ensues like in the actual play space, given all this destructibility and all this interactability. I don't know. It's a really special kind of soup from a multiplayer perspective that I'm really fascinated by, and I'm fascinated that it works so well, because I really was not anticipating liking it even remotely as much as I ended up enjoying it.
Yeah, it's like as far as I understand, it's like people are watching you, and like the crowd watching you play through these things, like almost like a Dash TV thing. Totally,
yeah. It's got this kind of spectator sport kind of presentation, which is kind of unique. It makes it feel different. I don't know if I love it necessarily. Like it's I could take it or leave it, really. Like there's the biggest problem with this, I think, and it's a really minor nitpick for probably a lot of people. It's definitely a big sticking point for me, where like they have AI narrators or announcers, and I don't really get the point, because they're never really doing anything they're never saying anything that feels so uniquely contextual that only AI could do it. You know, it seems really pointless and dumb. but the gameplay itself, man, like it feels good to move around in this game, and just to move around. There's like grappling hooks, which I'm a sucker for. I love grappling hooks and
grappling hooks are fun.
Anything where I can impose physics into the world like that is an amazing time for me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what Matty has to say, because I didn't know you were playing this at all.
Yeah, I recognized when I was playing this game that I really float in and out of a lot of shooters lately, which is
same.
Pretty much not how it used to be. I used to only play shooters, and I dip out for RPGs.
Yeah.
And then I think as the quality of shooters went down, that flipped. And so the finals was this really good reminder of that there's still something left in the tank when it comes to new feeling shooters. I felt like we had our set archetypes of like your crazy, frenetic Call of Duty shooter. You had the destructible shooter, I put in quotes, in Battlefield. You had your arena shooters like Halo. Like everyone just went to their own different corners, their own little communities, and then that was kind of it. The finals feels like this introduction of so many elements of all of these, put together. And for me, it's kind of been that I can come back to this whenever. The only thing it's really missing, in my opinion, which Halo Infinite has everyone kind of smoked in right now, is a compelling live service formula. I think one thing that Halo Infinite did tell the truth on is like not preying on FOMO much, and being able to go back to old seasons is great. Not to reiterate my old talking point, but again, people only have time for so many games. Yeah. Like with true endings, like with long games, it's like, hey, not everyone can play your 8 million battle passes in a single season and play everything else they want to play. Let us go back to them. You'll probably make more money that way anyway, as risky as it sounds. It's like the one thing that the finals is missing. I feel like I haven't played it in a couple of weeks now because I've been in on Trails Through Daybreak, but when I last played it, it was pretty much a heavy focused meta. Like even my buddies are like, you know what? Heavies are fucking annoying. Like, what if we just ran 3 deep? And like they're a force to be reckoned with. Like there's
totally so there's totally balance issues for sure. Yeah. Like it's like a lot of those older games where it's like you'd play them and you'd be like, there's clearly a winning formula here. Like heavy 100%. A team of 3 heavies is going to wipe the floor with most people. Like even if they get there slower, they can tank so much damage that it's insane.
Yeah, but it depends on your opponent so often, because like sometimes you'll play someone who just wants to have fun. And it's like, nice, I'm having a good time. And then some people are so annoying. They like find the I'm forgetting the name of the point that you go to. The vaults are. Place. And they'll throw down turrets and gas mines and everything. And
you just can't get to it. Yeah,
that's it. I'm just like, you're the worst, dude. Like, just get filtered from the game already. Get bored, move on to something else, and let us keep playing, because it's awful.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I'm such a shooter oriented person that like I think for me, like the battle pass thing, I have never understood the point in playing a game specifically to unlock things. Like it completely blew my mind when that kind of became the meta for a lot of shooters, specifically with like Call of Duty, where it's like, ooh, I'm going to play this so I can unlock the sniper rifle at the end of it. It's like, and that was the only reason they were playing. They weren't even having fun. They were like having a miserable time, like trying to unlock this sniper rifle because they knew it was like the best weapon in the game. And it's just like, why are you? I don't know. I'm so old school in the sense where like if the game is fun, I'll play it. So like I don't really like, even in this game, like I don't even necessarily like, I don't care about winning really, because just moving through the environment and just blowing shit up is so fun.
That's what I'm
and
saying,
so
man.
it's there's a joy in it, like a really simple joy that is it's really nice. But like, yeah, you're totally right. Like it definitely needs some balancing issues. If for no other reason, not necessarily to make it so balanced that it becomes this hyper sweaty competitive game, but like definitely enough to keep it from an obvious formula being too...
Just make the lights better. That's, in my opinion, what you need to do.
Yeah. Or I don't know. I mean, I'm not a game developer or anything. I have no idea what they could really do, or like what any changes they could make that would really impact. I have no idea. But lights need a buff. Heavies need a nerf. Mids or middles. I don't really delve a lot with. I've only done.
That's been my favorite. The medium. Yeah,
I've done the medium only when I'm playing with a team, but like usually, like if I'm just going in solo, I'm light. I'm running around. I'm sliding. I'm grappling. I'm doing all sorts of nonsense.
Sounds right.
It's fun. It sounds. Yeah, it's me. That's me. But yeah, it's cool.
It's just that destructibility. That's what pulled me in. It played. This thing is, when I left Call of Duty for the first time was like because Battlefield Bad Company 2 was on the block, and I was like, this thing is fun as hell, man. And the way guns control in Battlefield, I don't know. I've never shot a gun before, but they feel more real to me. They kick a little bit better. It feels better. And so the first thing that brought me to the finals when I saw the beta footage that some creators were showing was I was like, oh, the gunplay looks just like out of Battlefield. And then I'm seeing people just run through walls, and I think it's the way you approach objectives that makes the game so fun. Like you can do something as tacky as throwing some C4 on the floor above you, just blowing it up, watching the vault flow through. You can set up traps and just have buildings collapse on people. Like it is awesome. You could just, as a heavy, barrel through an entire set of walls. You could take down churches. Like it's fucking insane, man. That game is awesome. And I think that's why is that even if I'm going like, I went 5 and 10, I really stunk it up that match, but I knocked down like 8 buildings, and I felt like you feel like you do something every match, even if you really suck. And that's like the best compliment I can give it.
It's totally, I saw there's this one map that takes place on like the top of like these high skyscrapers, and there's like 2 bridges connecting the 2 buildings, and I saw people literally destroying, like the bridges were gone. Yeah. And so like there was no way to get over there unless you had like some crazy launch pad or some like way to... It's very interesting.
It's also the moving objective points. I almost forgot. Like that's my other favorite thing. Like there was one where the vault was on this platform that was floating around the sky around a building, and everyone's like jumping off these zip lines in the top of buildings, and it just coming down on this small surface area that's all the way on the outside of the map. I was like, who thought of this? Like the map design is brilliant. Like it can just, any place is a home to a massive firefight, and it just feels perfectly tuned. It's incredible what they've done there. So I keep coming back to it. I and that's what I like is that while I'm playing all these RPGs and single player stuff that I largely prefer, I now have one of those shooters that I can just kind of fire up and really have a good time with. I don't feel like I have to be a part of the meta. I like the mechanics are so simple and easy to understand. Like, oh, I break things. Cool. Yeah. And I shoot things. Cool. And there's not much beyond that. I think they could add a 4v4 mode. I think they would do well with that.
Yeah, totally.
Just like trying to find a group of 3, like, I don't know, at least in my friend group, like, we always have like 4, 5, 6 people want to play.
Right.
And
there's always an odd man out, and it sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
That was like a big problem with Destiny as well, with like fire teams and stuff. It's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks.
Say hi, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. Those moving objective points. There's one that I really love, although like I go back and forth between hating and loving it, but like I can't deny how funny it is. There's one moving platform where it's just an elevator in a building, and it's the capture point is in an elevator, and the elevator itself is indestructible, but everything around it is like you can blow everything out. But what I love about it is if you take control of this control point, you could have one teammate on the bottom floor and another teammate on the top floor. And as long as they're pressing the buttons to call the elevator up, like no one can get like a beat on you really, because the elevator's constantly moving.
That's funny.
So it's like, it's the amount of gameplay possibilities that are there just because of how dynamic the map is and how approachable a lot of the systems are. Like I said, like you're not fidgeting around with like, oh, what scope do I put on this? That was like one of the biggest problems I found with a lot of shooters lately, especially Back 4 Blood, which I remember having like a really annoying time with because like I just wanted Left 4 Dead or something that not necessarily a copy, but something that spoke to that spirit, and they almost had it, but then they just over designed the hell out of it.
Yeah, too much prep and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like, ooh, have a sniper rifle with here's a different scope, here's extended mag, here's like bullet reduction. It's like, this is, I'm just shooting. Why am I thinking about an ACOG scope when I'm shooting zombies?
Yeah,
this is not a competitive. Like I don't
Your
get
deck
it.
of cards.
It's the card system. I don't know, man. There's a lot of over designing.
Very little of that game. I was really disappointed by it.
Yeah, I'm sad I even brought it up.
Most people
crumbling.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's something in the simplicity of it and just the approachability of it and how good it feels. Like the gunplay feels great. I love the sniper class specifically. Like there's so you can get people from miles away, which I love. So few games with sniper rifles allow you to actually do that, like pick people off from like an insane distance. And the fact that this game has it reminds me a little bit of 1943, a little bit, that arcade Battlefield that came out on
I missed out on that one.
It was like such a good amount of, the right amount of depth, the right amount of approachability, just really solid game. I hope hopefully they hire like real voice actors to do the announcements, because I really don't. I cannot stress enough how much I don't get it. Like there are certain ideas that I've heard floating around in the games industry about like how you could use AI in that way. Like one of the most compelling ones that I heard was like Lethal Company. If you guys have ever played Lethal Company,
yeah,
like the idea of like it's really fun. But like,
it's really fun.
There was an idea that I saw. I don't know if it's a mod or if it's like an official thing. I haven't played in a while, but the idea of like having like an enemy in that game that like listens to you and like it says things in your voice to fuck with you.
I've seen that online. That was amazing. Yeah.
That's a genuinely cool use of AI, and it's something that you couldn't do that with an actor. Like, it's impossible, literally. You would have to hire every single human being on the planet to do that. But like, the finals isn't really making a case for me. Like,
are they even like robot announcers?
No, it's just they're just
sounds
people.
like the guy from the Midway games, like the Slugfest and Hits. Like,
totally. Yeah, it's just like it's typical like sports game show announcer or whatever. But they're not saying anything. They're not even saying like your gamer tag or anything, or like your name, or even something as simple as that, where it's like, okay, well, at least there's like some. I could see why some stingy asshole thought this might be a good idea, but it's literally just like, oh, that team really dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so devoid of context that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only time it like felt maybe I got the idea that they were going for was it was when the holiday battle pass dropped, and like there were little Christmas lines being dropped in the middle of combat from the battle chatter from from the people shooting. But it wasn't like, I don't know, man. I just wish they came out clean and just went like, we just tried to save money here. Like, we just didn't want to pay the same people over and over. So we were just going to use we're going to pay them for their voice and then like reuse that for all these other things. Cause like it's the one tough part of the game to support, like knowing it kind of exists in there, especially because it's not additive and that you can really hear through it. And like, you can tell it's AI. Like, it's not super clean. As I think you would hope professional AI work would be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Brett, the illustrator, wrote in, "What's up, boys? Absolutely having a blast playing the finals. The time to kill is a little long, but I think it's made me realize how much I love the old Battlefield games. The destructible environments are incredibly satisfying in this game. Why don't more games do destructible environments? Is it extremely hard to do, and that's why more devs don't attempt it? Thanks so much, and have a super summoning great day."
Oh man!
I imagine it's very expensive to do destructive environments that look good, at least.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine it's probably a heavy server load, but even beyond that, I think the reason why it's difficult to attempt is it's already difficult to design a map that works in a static environment, right? Like, building a good multiplayer map that isn't destructible is by itself very, very hard. Like, I would argue, like, I don't know, man, like, maybe Halo 2 was like the last game that I played that had like every single multiplayer map, like, or like 90% of the multiplayer maps were just like, whoa, this is fucking great. Like, most multiplayer games like that don't really, I don't know, it's a lot of hit and miss, and you get some shining examples and some not. And so the idea of layering on top of that, the idea that, oh, not only is this difficult to design as is, but you have to account for the fact that at any point all of this could be gone, or like parts of this could be gone, or I think it's just a really difficult task for a lot of designers who already have a lot on their plate, designing something that is supposed to be fun when you play it for the 10th, 50th, 100th, 200th, 500th, 1000th time. I don't know. It takes a lot of intelligence, I think, to map out a game like this, because like that's something that, I mean, we talked a little bit about the destructible environments and how cool that is, but the maps themselves are really good too. Like, they're really well designed play spaces even before anything is destroyed. Like, they feel real in a weird way. Like that church level, I love. Just this big cathedral in the middle of this city. I don't know, man. It's a big task, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything to add on to that. I do think it's just a workload. I really do. I think it's extremely difficult to do that, because what happens when you give the player a tool set like that, kind of like Chris's beloved physics, is you just have to consider what they're going to use, especially in a at least like in single player, you're isolated and you're not affecting anyone's experience. But in multiplayer, it's like, man, you can really just ruin someone's day. Like, so I think that's why they try to keep everything fixed and static, because when you get too much chaos, there's too much you cannot account for, which is why the finals is more impressive, is it feels like every moment was just specifically like it was made with it designed in mind. Like, oh yeah, this floor you can blow up because there'll be a point here, and this point here can fall into this room here where there's a lot of windows, and a firefight is like, if you're in the middle of that, yeah, you just got the vault, but you're not safe. So it is a higher level of consideration. And I mean, the game launched differently from, say, your traditional Call of Duty, right? So I guess there's that. Right. Like, it had the test period, like it got beta feedback and whatnot, whereas like other games that are multiplayer are typically made in a silo, or when Halo did early access, like it was, I think, so close to its release that it wasn't going to have it. There wasn't going to be much meaningful change, quite like we were looking for. Where I think, this is kind of how I want more multiplayer games to go. Like, I also think it comes down to the map volume is what I'm getting at. Is like, there's only, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's like 4 or 5 maps in this game right now.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. It's
not a ton.
Under 10. And most games are like, we got all the remastered maps and we got 5 more added on top, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, but what if you consolidated that down to like 3 extremely good, highly replayable maps that on their own function like 8 maps unto themselves if you were to cookie cutter them up.
Yeah,
so,
dude.
Right.
Yeah, because like you could transform, like those maps transform themselves. So in some way they kind of become, they are their own source of they are their own source of variety in that way. And there's also, like, I didn't mention either, but like there's time of day settings and like weather conditions. Like,
have you seen in Las Vegas how it can like get really like a sandstorm will blow in and like the whole. I thought that was the craziest
and visibility.
shit
Visibility gets really low, and then sometimes it's just like foggy and it's like really hard to see. And like that's great. That's great for snipers because like if you have a trained eye, you can just pick people from far away and they can't fucking see you. And there's a level of just. It's so funny too because when you consider like how Overwatch 2 tried to be like, here's a new map. It's this map, but it's daytime. It's funny. But like, even that goes a long way. Just having a different time of day, having different weather conditions, it definitely brings up the what could be considered kind of paltry map variety. It kind of elevates it a little bit because there are various conditions that you might have to consider going into these maps, in addition to the fact that like, you could terraform the entire place as you're playing. So I don't know. It's a really interesting game. It's the first time that I've felt like a moment has happened with shooters in a while. Like, I think Overwatch was probably like the last time.
Sure. Yeah.
That I felt like something this significantly like, oh, there's something special here, I think. And the team would be very smart to nurture this going forward because like, I mean, this destructibility is not really all that common, even in single player games. Like it reminds me a lot of Red Faction, Guerrilla, or like, like those games that really like kind of harken, like really focused in on them, or destructible environments. And there was also the case that it's not destructible environments aren't necessarily. Not every shooter needs them. Like I don't think Halo would really benefit from that at all, or things like that. But it's definitely a cool way to interact with a shooter.
Yeah, I think it's a cool way to interact for sure. All right, Hector wrote in, "Hey SS officers,
God damn,
you know what? We're just gonna put a stop to that right away.
Stop, right?
Just stop right away. Call us Sunbros or whatever else you come up with. We're just not gonna do those ones.
Yeah,
right?
we'll be silly little fellers.
Save that for Sacred Symbol. All right,
don't."
The boys and I have been playing the finals quite a bit. I find it's been scratching that Battlefield 4 itch mixed with its own cool elements. Do you think this game will have longevity? I imagine with a few more modes and maybe guns and abilities, it can go a while. Welcome, Brad. Yeah, what do you guys think? Just needs a little more.
It's
probably
so
don't really catch on.
It's so hard to predict these things, man. Like sometimes you see games like, whoa, they're doing so good right out the gate. What could go wrong? And then everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So they're in a good position, I think. Like it's fun. It's enjoyable. I think they really just got to tune in on balancing. I think that's the first. That is really the first. I honestly think like they do need more maps for sure. But like I said, like
more important.
I think for now, the variety of what these maps offer, and like, again, just like the level of control you have over shaping the levels, in addition to like time of day and weather, I feel like there's enough variety there overall to keep people invested. I think what you really need to focus on is balance, and just making sure that it's it feels like a solid experience, like no matter what you're going to go. Like a team of 3 heavies is they should be strong, but they shouldn't be imperceptible to a team of lights. You know, like there should be some balance there. I don't know how they're going to do that. I'm not an expert on that stuff, but like that would be a core focus for me if I was to suggest something to them. But I don't know, man. Live service is tricky. It's really difficult to predict. Like there are games that have started off great, fallen off, come back. Games that have started off horribly, bounced back, started off horribly, died in cataclysmic death. Think of Babylon's Fall. It's one of those.
Dude,
like there was just nothing.
Where is what was it? Multiverses or whatever? The Warner Brothers game?
Yeah, they delisted it to like they said it was. That's the funniest thing that no one talks about is that they took that shit down after it did so well. They're like, yeah, that was just early access. We'll be back next year, and with that, we're gonna have the full game. And I'm like, what do you wait? Hold on, you were selling a ton of shit. What do you mean it wasn't the full game? So I'm really curious what they launch with now. That game was. I really liked Multiverses. It's funny you bring that up. I just remember it like died quick. Like that was the most conversation it got afterwards. Is like, look at its player count. Look how dead it is.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like there's no explanation really for like how things succeed and fail. Like I remember like Halo Infinite was on a downturn for a really, really long time after having a really, really good introduction. And now it's kind of on the upswing again. And it's weird. And I don't know. I think this has a pretty good, there's a lot of potential here, I think. They just got to nurture it wisely. And even then, who the fuck knows? Chaotic.
Yeah.
Actually, I just looked it up real quick. The finals isn't getting a content roadmap because the FPS developers only want to, quote, make promises we can keep, end quote. That was December 19th, 2023. They said that. So I imagine whenever that could work in their favor if they keep dropping stuff quickly. But if you're not going to communicate that, I could also see the player count just gradually dipping off as new releases come out. So, they got the holiday stuff out pretty quick. It's interesting because the core is so good. I'm almost scared what happens if they try to change it. So
yeah, it is one of those things where it's like I kind of hope it stays like that because it is janky in a way also like but in a way that doesn't feel necessarily, I don't know, it doesn't feel middle market necessarily, but like there's certain aspects to it that are like I hope this stays in. Like I hope this is clearly a bug, but I hope this remains.
All right, dudes. It is time for Sort It Out!
Oh boy.
Just so you're out there who don't know, Sort Out's a segment where we just complain about something in the game industry. Whoever's doing some dumb shit out there, game company, person, gotta let them hear it. Do you boys have one?
Do you want to go first, Matty, or do I?
You can go ahead.
You want me to go? All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorted out Bungie.
Ooh.
There are, man, what is there to even say? Bungie's on fire as of late in a way that's really hard to ignore. Obviously a really important studio to me growing up, very, very fundamental to my love of video games. I played probably every Bungie game with maybe the exception of Myth, honestly, that was a strategy game in like the late 90s, but I played Pathways into Darkness and like even earlier things like that. So like I'm big into this studio, and to watch them kind of fumble this bad lately is really depressing. And for those who don't know, there's massive layoffs as a result of just not missing, like really drastically missing their projections for this last year, which is, I don't know, man, they dropped the ball with Lightfall pretty hard. From a story perspective, especially, I honestly think gameplay is. I feel like from a gameplay perspective, it was really great, actually. But like that story was just so bad, especially considering it was supposed to be their Infinity War leading into their end game. It was just like not. It ain't what we asked for, man. Not even close. And as somebody who's been playing for a long time, I felt that disappointment, and it couldn't have come at a worse time too, because it just a stellar year. Just so much else to play that I almost feel like in some way that even if Lightfall did hit like with a magnitude that they would have been happy with, they still probably would have missed their projections just from the sheer volume of amazing titles that came out. So like they were in a kind of a lose-lose situation in some way. But I mean, they're in a rough state right now. They lost a lot of people. They're in a position now where Bungie, the board, who has made so many horrible decisions over the years. I as a resident Bungie historian, I can't even begin to tell you. Like, that would be an entire 7 hour. That'd be an entire 7, like everything from signing with Activision in the first place after they literally basically threatened them. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy the shit that that the board of directors of Bungie has been up to over the last decade. But they're in a position now where they might be basically taken over by people at Sony, where Sony people might step into that board of directors, which might be good in some way, in the sense that you would be getting people who have really held on to power for too long at Bungie out. But at the same time, you would lose the entire reason you bought that studio in the first place. Like, the entire reason Sony bought Bungie was for them to guide them through this live service environment with their expertise, which they no doubt have, even if they have fumbled and, you know, there ain't no Babylon's Fall, you know, like they're trucking along. They know the space, even if they do falter. But the idea of like, okay, let's get rid of these people and put our people in. What have you just bought then? Especially if you lose like 10% or however many people of their talent that you spent billions of retention money on. Like, what's the purpose of even having them at that point? Like, you bought them for their expertise and now you've ousted the expertise. I don't know. Yeah. It's they got to sort it out. If there's any studio in my mind that needs to sort it out, it's them.
I had a bit of a twofer, but I got to hold back on one of them just because I got to wait for it to be official and then see how it's communicated. I would have said Xbox in their kind of messaging. I feel like it's messy. Now we're hearing that as we record this, Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves might go to PlayStation and Switch, which just like it opens this can of worms of like, what's exclusive, what's not exclusive, how does this all work, which they've already had trouble with in the past. So I will save my bars for defining Duke on that, but that is my tentative one. What I
hold on. Wait, it's Hi-Fi Rush and what else?
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, man, really that's interesting
picks. Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting Wednesday when we record this episode. I can't wait to see everyone's write-ins and reception to the. It's never an easy week, man. That's what I always tell people. It's never an easy week with Xbox. They find some way to make it fucking weird. But I digress. My real sorted out, Bandai. You and your anime games need to figure it the fuck out, man. They continue to recycle constantly these cheap-ass 3D arena fighters for every anime under the sun. And not only that, but as they recycle them, dude, these things are popular. They're making so much money. I keep seeing like Demon Slayer. It's one of the most successful anime of all time. Yet it gets like this 3D. I know this isn't Bandai, by the way. Sega published this, but I'm saying like we're seeing anime games get these constantly slapped on 3D fighters. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Like JJK is getting this new game in February, and it's like a fucking 2v2 fighting game. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? Why are we doing this? And it's constant. There has been for 2 decades now, no innovation outside of the occasional sporadic like Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles, or it's hard to think of any other examples where an anime game just stands out and does something different. Oh, One Piece Odyssey. Yeah. A nice traditional turn-based game that doesn't really reinvent the formula in the terms of like its story or its gameplay, but it works. It fits the idea of the game, but it feels like all these shows, like this is it. This is the end of the road for them. Like you get your Ultimate Ninja Storm clone and then you're out of here. And then some anime like JJK is wildly popular. And you're telling me you could only throw the My Hero Academia developers at them, the One's Justice developers at them, who made like pretty bad arena fighting games on their own. I don't know. It bugs the hell out of me though, because I feel like these games could be way better, way more risky, way more inventive. Like I encourage people, go look at like the Tokyo Ghoul game. Like it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing how popular and high grossing these properties are, yet how bottom of the barrel most of their games are. And I know this because like I've gone through so many throughout my lifetime, but also in Retro Rebound, like we just like playing these anime games and most of them are terrible. I played one recently for One Piece. It was World Seeker. It had to be one of the worst feeling. So bad.
I've played that game. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, like they tried to put this web swinging system in. I'm like, how do you fuck that up? How do you get that that wrong, man. So Bandai, please sort it out. You've got the money. You've published Elden Ring, for God's sakes. You got the money in some vault somewhere. Start throwing a little money at the anime games beyond Naruto and DBZ. Okay, as I say this as someone who loves OG Naruto, who still I have like right in front of me a bunch of figures. I love DBZ, but please, for the love of God, throw some money at another franchise beyond the two most popular shonen ones. I promise you, people will arrive and buy. But dude, that's just got to sort it out. In my opinion.
The Arc System Works One Piece fighter or something like that. Make that happen.
Like, I love Dragon Ball. It's probably my favorite anime. Why do they only get this treatment? Like, it's popular, but is it like that much more popular than shit we're seeing nowadays? Like, I don't think so. I think it's, like these new ones are becoming like Demon Slayer is arguably just as known by now. So it's crazy to me that like they're just continuing to just tread water with these anime games. There's certain ones that need no comment.
I feel you, dude. Yeah, it's been frustrating forever. It's rare to get a good anime game.
Yeah, like
I feel like we used to get
the
them
one
a lot.
part of the industry. Like you look at like the Marvel games. Like remember when we used to get? Trying to think here. You get like Web of Shadows, Amazing Allies edition on PS2, which is just some of the worst shit ever. Now it's hard to imagine a Marvel video game being like really, really bad, right? Like there's a level of quality that's there. Like it's evolved out of the movie tie-in era to something else.
We did have the Avengers that wasn't.
That's fair. Yeah.
For
the most part, though, we get to avoid these catastrophes. It feels like anime games are still trapped in the early 2000s. Like they're made a very particular way, a very one-trick way, a very quick cash-in way. And it's weird because I feel like they could be so much more. So it's frustrating.
Can I tell you something, though? I'm definitely a part of the problem. Because when Budokai 4 comes out, I will be happy if it was the exact fucking same.
That's fine, though. That's like an established thing. You know what? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's like an established thing. But if like we got JJK coming in, like why are you throwing it into the 3D anime fighter only? Like, did we not think beyond this? Like, why did it have to be 2v1 or 2v2? It's weird, man. Like most of the fights are not even 2v2 or 2v1. Like most fights in the show, the best fights in the show are 1-on-1. And they didn't even get that right. It boggles the mind.
That was good. I like that one. Dude, for my sorted out, way less intense. Just annoying for me. Just an annoyance for me of these fucking games coming out so close to each other or on the same day.
Yeah.
Matty knows, dude, February, we got Grand Blue Relink and we got Persona 3 Reload like a day apart from each other.
Yep.
We got Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth coming up. And then we got in March, Dragon's Dogma 2 and the Sony, I can't think of it. The Samurai game.
Rise of the Ronin.
Rise of the Ronin's like the same fucking day.
In March?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
And it's just, exactly, that's what's happening.
Oh.
And it's like, I want to play all these games. I am the audience you were pandering to the same audience with like too much shit for me to get. I can't get to all this kind of stuff going on right now. It's like, you guys spread that shit out.
100%. 100% agree. And like we're uniquely positioned. Like we do this for a living where we even have more time to throw at this stuff and we still struggle. So imagine the common consumer who likes what we like and they see all these games. You get to pick one, probably.
Yeah. You get like one, maybe two if you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, everyone's picking Rebirth.
That too. I forgot.
Everyone's picking Rebirth.
Yeah. God, I gotta finish the original. I'm so far in.
Yeah, you do.
Finish it up.
Finish it off, Chris.
Yeah, I should.
That game is so good.
Yeah, it is. All right, we got some write-ins also. Neo JD. I need the console market to ease up on the refund policies like Steam does. If I don't even want to play a game for an hour, I should be able to get a refund. In the end, I buy more games than I get to try. Than these, I don't. Those I don't. So more of a refund policy like Steam does on consoles sounds fair to me.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, no complaints from me.
Yeah,
I managed to return Skull Island: Rise of Kong when I reviewed that. They did.
Very nice.
Yeah, on Xbox, managed to get my money back for that piece of shit.
Oh shit, man!
Yep.
Damn, imagine how bad something has to be.
That Xbox took my refund in 24 hours. I think, like they were like, okay, we get it. Like they probably looked at the screenshots on their own store page and went, yeah, all right, got it.
This is from Zeke the Plumber. Brad, so happy to see you LSM. You are the man. Thanks. I have it sorted out for you. PC ports. This past year was an awful year for PC ports. Games that run very smoothly on console only to be stutterfest on PC or PC Game Pass versions of games fully missing features. I have a high-end gaming PC, but often find myself buying the PS5 version of the games just to avoid immersion-destroying stutters. Sort it out. Brad, Matty, and Chris kept being awesome. We will. But yeah, PC ports, gotta get on that shit.
100%.
Get on that shit. Especially Unreal ones, dude.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do the exact opposite now. Keep it up. Who's doing it well? Who's killing it?
Man, deep for this one. Who is doing it well?
You know what?
Doing it well?
I had one written, but like as we were talking about it, as we were having this conversation, I came up with another one. I think I'll save this one for a future one because I suspect they'll be doing well by the time I'm back here. But 343.
343.
343 is doing a pretty good job, man. Like I'm kind of surprised, honestly. Like based on like how, because I'm a big Halo guy. Obviously, this is the most embarrassing. I didn't even wear this sweater on purpose, but like. I was down on them for a really, really long time. And I think I don't know, man. I've accepted the fact that like, it's never going to be that again. It's never going to be like what I remember from like the heyday, right? But they've turned that game around in a way that is honestly really impressive with like, especially considering the fact that they're running lower on manpower than they used to. Like there's a smaller staff over there and they're kind of killing it. Like they brought Firefight in just at the right time and they've got good engagement. Their numbers are kind of crawling up. It's been a while since I've kept up with it, but like, it's in a good spot right now, and that's nice to see. It's nice to see, even if I still feel like man, you dropped the ball. Man, this was so poorly handled from like the outset. I've got to give flowers where they're necessary, or where I feel like they're doing a good job, and I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed what they've done with Halo Infinite. I know it's crawling up the player charts a little bit. It's still in the top 25 most played for Xbox, and its Steam player counts leaves a little bit to be desired. 24-hour peak of 7K. So like it's unfortunate. I don't think the numbers match the current quality.
Absolutely, but it's also like that was up from like 1K. Like they were in a dire space for a while where they had like maybe like 500 people on. It was bad, and so to be 7K is not good. But I mean, that's ultimately Xbox's fault for
I agree,
fucking it up. It's not really reflective of the quality in that game, which I think has just a shit ton of content. Like it's insane what Forge did for that game.
Played it the other night for 3-4 hours straight, and I guess someone who covers the game too, like when you see it come to fruition before your eyes, like how many new maps because of Forge. Like I was just playing doubles that whole time, and like how many new maps are there. It's incredible, man. Like it's I recommend to people again, like if you've not tried Halo Infinite since like it first came out, you will be stunned by how much shit they have managed to pack into this game since, where I know a lot of that following year from the release was spent beating it up, but like in 2023, it was like full steam ahead. They've added tons of maps in, tons of modes. Like there's always something new to do. Game still feels great. They add a couple new weapons. Like the bandit feels awesome as a I got that old excitement again of when I pick up a weapon in Halo. I'm like, oh, this gun, this is gonna be awesome. Tear some ass. Like I'm so excited. So like they're doing a great job, and I think they now need like the big moment. Like, I don't know if you agree, Chris. Like, I feel like they're ready now for the big moment that kind of calls major attention back to the game. Like, whatever that will be. Like, I remember there was like the rumor that they were going to do a battle royale style game with certain affinity. I don't know if that's still on or not, but
I don't know.
We're hearing like changes to Unreal Engine. There's like apparently no current Halo story being worked on for Infinite. Also, I don't know what's going on. It seems like they're still kind of in flux, but
for sure,
I feel like the game is ready for when they have that moment to like be like, hey, we're back in a big way. Like they have the content to support it this time around.
It's always been a good game. I've always argued that, like even when I was on Defining Duke Ultimate, we were beating the shit out of it. The disappointment really came from the fact it's like, wow, this is such a good game. Why is it being handled this way? Like why is there no new content? Why did you launch without really, really key features? The gameplay is so solid. why'd you do it like this? Why you do me like this, man? Like, why you gotta do that? But it's in a spot now where it's like, yeah, I easily, like, people send me messages all the time. It's like, yo, I jumped in recently and it's great. And it's like, yeah, well, and it's usually sometimes people being like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's great. And I'm like, well, that our conversation was like from a year and a half ago to 2 years ago. Yes, it's way better now. Have fun. You were not there in the trenches with me suffering. But yeah, dude, I remember being like, dude, Forge is going to change it. And it totally did. And they're never going to, they will never be where they were. Even at the beginning of Halo Infinite, where they had 20 million players checking it out, they dropped the ball. Like they fucked up immediately, and there's no going back. But the least you can do is make the product that is there really fucking solid. And I'm happy to say that it is. And they're doing a good job with like half the manpower. So like, not literally half, but like a fraction of the manpower. So like, I mean, kudos to them. Hopefully they continue on that trajectory. If not, they'll be on a future sorted out.
Yeah. I think I like Matty was kind of saying they need like a big moment. I think of like Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty. Obviously, Cyberpunk was doing stuff under the hood for a while, but Phantom Liberty came out. It like gave it a huge second life. Yeah. But the only problem with Halo is it doesn't seem they're doing single player content at all. I think that could have really helped.
That would,
new single player, new multiplayer content, all of that.
To make I wish. It's sad that game doesn't have. I think that campaign's fine. It's not like, it's not my favorite campaign by a long shot, but what's there is serviceable. I think it's just a shame that they're not working on any new story content because, dude, it would hit so well if they just had if that gameplay loop was just given like new play spaces. Yeah. Just new biomes, new levels, places that didn't necessarily take place.
Snow levels.
Snow.
There's still not snow levels?
Someone remade Assault on the Control Room in Forge.
That's true. Yeah. There's a lot of custom content that is snow, and I think there's like there's a multiplayer map that I think is now snow, which is nice. But single player it's just that Pacific Northwest, the same thing as it always has been. It's nice, but like I don't know, man. It needs more, and the single player front needs definitely like a lot more love than it's getting. It's really disappointing to see that they're just not doing it, but they really should fucking deeply reconsider that. Because I think that would be a huge boon. Like, actually,
I agree. But I think for my keep it up, I got to throw out CD Projekt Red. We were just talking about them, but
that was the one that I
5 million sales for Phantom Liberty.
Crazy.
That short stretch of time is pretty incredible. I remember that was a company that went from like everyone saying they were down and out and that they should just leave the industry after the state of Cyberpunk to again now being celebrated like nothing had happened at all. It's incredible. And I had loved Cyberpunk since the launch. Like I even went out and said I preferred it to like something such as The Witcher 3. It just spoke to my taste more. It was incredible that to me CD Projekt Red made a game that felt as good of a shooter as Cyberpunk did when they worked on third-person action games for so long. I thought that just spoke to their talents. The music, the performances were phenomenal. And so to see them just double down on all of those with all the systems fixed now in Phantom Liberty, and then updated again with update 2.1, I'm really excited for their future. At the same time, I can't act like I'm well versed enough yet in game development to know how they're going to handle this. Like they built all of this tech in Red Engine, and now they're moving on to Unreal Engine 5 moving forward, likely because a lot of the technical issues they had were caused by their own in-house engine. But I wonder, with all of the tools they built that could have been used for the sequel, are they effectively starting from scratch again? So I'm just rooting for them because I'm really excited for the future of Cyberpunk, the future of The Witcher. And then CD Projekt Red's bought a bunch of smaller companies up that are working on smaller games. It seems like one is in the Witcher universe from like I forgot the name of the company, but it was like a indie dev. So, I like when CD Projekt Red gets experimental working on big things. Like they did this game called Thronebreaker, which took like the Gwent card system from Witcher 3 and made like a whole RPG out of it. And it was really, really good. So, I hope to see more out of them with that. But yeah, just with Cyberpunk, that was my favorite game from them. Phantom Liberty is more on top, and I'm just continuing to be excited about what they're doing next with, I think they're calling it Orion right now. So sky is the limit, truly.
Okay, mine is gonna be so far is I'm gonna say keep it up to Blizzard for right now.
Oh.
So I have a long history of Blizzard, and over the last decades or so, it's been not so hot. It's been pretty bad. But I will say, man, things seem to have been turning a corner there. Definitely since they got purchased by Xbox. I know many staff there are very pleased that Bobby is gone.
Yeah.
And as someone who played World of Warcraft for a long time, that game has been through huge ups and downs throughout its history. Recently, it's been in the tanks mostly, but they've done smart things, particularly to the classic fan base of that series, like these things called Classic Plus, which is no, it's not Classic Plus, Season Discovery. It's like replaying the old game, but they added in a few new tweaks to freshen it up like that. And it's treated like a seasonal event where you can only get to a certain level for an amount of time. Then they unlock more content. They're adding like new raids into old content. It's making a game I remember playing when it first came out feel really new again. And I've been really enjoying it. And it seems like they're firing all fronts on the retail version of WoW. They got 3 expansions lined up now. Seems like they're going somewhere. It seems like they have a plan actually locked in, which I haven't felt from them for a very long time. And I'm hoping now that they're under Xbox, like shit like Overwatch 2 getting its PvE mode canceled, stuff like that won't happen as much.
Yeah.
Maybe seeing some franchises like StarCraft come back, some more things like that. Because Activision definitely ran the show on those 2 companies. So I'm really hoping they get some of their independence back. And it feels like I'm seeing brief, small glimpses of it. So keep going, Blizzard. Get back up there.
I remember when Phil Spencer and his team first visited Blizzard. You saw on the branding, it wasn't Activision Blizzard, but it was like Xbox Blizzard. Like it was just Blizzard alone, which a lot of people took as an indication like they're their own entity now, which would make sense because Mike Ibarra is the head of Blizzard and he worked at Xbox for like 20 years, I think. So the trust is there. Like, hey, dude, go handle this shit for us. Thanks.
Yeah, and I went to BlizzCon this year, which they hadn't done for so long, and the spirits were very high, I saw from people in the show floor. So it's surprising. Cool. It seems like people want them to win right now. They want them to get back on track. So that's better than people wanting them to go away like so many past years. Like with all that Hong Kong shit that went on. It's
man, yeah.
So hopefully things will work out for them now.
Did you have a particular favorite Blizzard game?
So what got me into Blizzard was Warcraft 3. So I like have a very soft spot for that. And
Reforged shirt.
I didn't even bother. Yeah, I was so disappointed. I didn't even buy it, dude. That was a slap in the face.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I don't think we're going to get shit like that anymore.
Got it.
So we've been like at the bottom, dude, of of Bobby Kotick not caring about Blizzard. We've been there. So hopefully Uncle Phil will come in there and shine on.
Were you disappointed with Diablo 4? I've read online like some people are just like super disappointed with it. I loved what I played, but I don't know.
Diablo 4, I've only played Diablo 2 and 4. No, I played 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
I thought Diablo 4 from what I played was fine. I haven't done like crazy amount of end game anything like that. I don't play Diablo 4 like other people play ARPGs where it's like they only play that game. So I think if you're looking for that super crazy in-depth ARPG experience, it's probably with PoE or something like that.
Yeah.
But for someone like me who wants a more casual experience, I thought Diablo was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I was just curious because I it's funny. Like I'm friends with Jez Cord, and he's like the only guy I know who's like, how I am with Bethesda. Like, oh, I'm just interested generally in what Bethesda's doing, and like, 'cause I just grew up liking their games. And so many people I know are like love Blizzard stuff, and I'm like, okay, like what is like the sticking point for people that makes them fall in love with Blizzard? Because I just like have these moments of like, oh yeah, I played a little World of Warcraft. Like I really loved Overwatch when it first came out and put like 500 hours into it, but like. Otherwise, like Blizzard's kind of been hit or miss for me growing up.
Well, exactly. It's what it used to be. It used to be like that Blizzard polish or whatever. You could expect something like that. You could have extremely high expectations and they were justified.
Got it.
Like you got their games, they worked, man, and they were fantastic. They're supported really well, but that just they kind of lost that over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like remember when Overwatch 1 launched, it was like huge. Everyone loved that game. Everyone was playing it, and they just pissed it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can
What a confusing
time. Yeah.
That was such a weird thing. Like I remember the second they announced Overwatch 2, I was like, why? Why are you doing that? Why didn't you just update the game as is? That's so
exactly.
weird. I mean, that's definitely an indication that it was an Activision kind of thing. Because I remember feeling this similarly with Destiny. Where I was like, why is there a Destiny 2? Like,
yeah,
I get it if you want to make a new one for like new consoles, so you're not hindered. But like, why is it a 2? That's so weird. It's such an Activision ass thing.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
We got a couple from the audience too. Zip Davis wrote in, "Hello, Summon Sign, starring Mel Gibson. I just wanted to submit a keep it up. Multiple discs, the Cyberpunk 2077, Baldur's Gate 3, and soon to be released Final Fantasy VII Rebirth all have 2 or more discs. I hope we see this healthy trend of complete on disc continue. Love the new show and have a wonderful day."
Yeah.
Ooh-wee. That was them.
I was gonna say, wow, you felt something with that one.
Yeah, that was them.
The passion.
We'll get one more. Kurst Kamza. AA lads. First and foremost, congratulations to Brad on the launch of Summon Sign. Thank you. I like to put forward Remedy Games as a submission for Keep It Up. Their last 2 releases, Control and Alan Wake 2, have been unique and fascinating explorations of what's possible in games. And I'm very excited to see what comes next from Sam Lake and co. Cheers and all the best for 2024.
100%.
Yeah, man. Sam Lake killing it, dude. All right. Matty.
Hello.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, yes. Yes, this Christmas break has been most nice to me. I've been just playing a lot of good shit, and whenever I wasn't playing Trails Through Daybreak, I was playing Baldur's Gate 3. I already beat it, and I was like, second playthrough wouldn't hurt.
Easy game to do that.
Yeah, just it's incredible. I mean, it's hard to think of things to say that haven't been said, but they just really knocked it out of the park with, when you go through it the first time, you feel content. Like, yeah, I know I missed a lot, but it doesn't really feel that way. And then you play and you're like, okay, I made this choice here. Let me do this. Let me go over here. I didn't really check this out. And the way the maps are interconnected, the way everything is beautifully stitched together, both dialogue and gameplay wise. It's an incredible game. And it's one I've been playing for years. It's that, like, the type of game that I'm always going to have a playthrough kind of running quietly on the side as I'm just doing other things. Like, oh, there's a quiet time. Okay, I'll throw a couple hours into this BG3 save I got. Right now I'm working on my Githyanki Monk because I was playing my first character was like a high elf ranger, and he ended up being a ranger.
So was mine.
Yeah, dude, I'm such a sucker for elves. It's so boring, but it's like I always play as an elf in any fantasy game because I just have to. And they're always a ranger, like since Skyrim, I think. Like elf ranger. I ended up being like a Gloomstalker ranger thief hybrid, which was fucking busted. It was so fun. Whereas there was a point in the main story, you fight these monks, and they just had cool ass moves that like they were deflecting missiles with their hands and using like all these martial arts techniques. I was like, that's awesome. I was like, I want to do that. And because I knew Baldur's Gate 3 is that kind of game, I was like, oh, I can do that. I'm going to go play as a Githyanki monk then and have some fun that way. And so that's what I've been doing. Is, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. I know there's talk about, like, because of its success, if it's ever going to get DLC or not. I feel like the epilogue teases a lot of like the adventure's not over yet. So I feel they might change their plans and commit to DLC, just because if you look at Steam and its current player count, like, it has not dropped off at all. Really at all.
Yeah.
And now it's on Xbox. It's one of the most played games there. Like, it is selling remarkably well. So I think with things like DLC, they know that there might be a necessary business decision here to go make a lot more cash before you move on to your next thing, which I'm just hoping is sci-fi because they've done fantasy for so long. I would love to see a sci-fi game from Larian. So yeah, I'm just going to keep basking in the glorious world that is Baldur's Gate for the foreseeable future, because it's just what they've made is spectacular. And I am not wasting a moment of appreciating that this game even exists. It's awesome. It also makes me want to check out the older ones, even though they definitely are not going to be as fun to play. But I'm Locke's one of my closest friends, and like he is obsessed with Baldur's Gate 2. And like I played a little bit of it for a video on Retro Rebound. I was like, this shit is awesome, story wise at least. So I really want to get into that at least. So one of these days.
This is from Michael. Who did you horny men romance in Baldur's Gate 3 and why?
Shadowheart.
Yeah,
because I have eyeballs.
Yeah, she's like the obvious answer.
Obvious, yeah.
Yeah, come on.
It's like not even a question.
Have to explain ourselves.
That is the default. Although Karlach
cool.
Is fucking awesome, bro.
Karlach's up there,
bro. She has, in my opinion, I don't know how many of you guys got to Act 3, but like, dude, she has the best scene, in my opinion, at the end of the game and end of her character arc. It is like a brilliant performance. It is so better than anything in the game, I think. It is so good. I'm sure people who play the game know what I'm talking about. She's incredible, though. Almost to the point where I regret my choice. I was like, damn, I feel like I gotta snuggle up to this devil over here.
I finished it, but it was before the epilogue patch or whatever.
Oh.
And I remember just being like, I was like, oh, wait, what? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Epilogue definitely, because when I played it and then knowing where they drew the line and where the epilogue ends up, yeah, it was that moment of like, oh, if I played this and beat this, I'd feel a little empty after it was all said and done.
Yeah, dude, and like when Shadowheart gets white hair too. Yeah, unquestionable.
Obvious.
It's her.
Obvious choice.
Obvious. Matthew Mandello wrote in, hope you're all well. I've put almost 60 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 so far, and I love it. I have no knowledge of anything D&D. What are your thoughts on the mass appeal of this game to people like myself? I think it's just a fucking really good video game, even if you know D&D or not. And that's enough to get people to try out your game.
Yeah.
When everyone you know is just talking about how awesome this game is, you're going to be inclined to check it out, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Like knowing D&D like can help enhance the experience, especially gameplay wise, like combat, you can understand better, I would say, if you know D&D rules. But it's just like, I mean, it's like when it reminds me of when Dragon Age 1 came out, you know? It's like, I didn't know anything really about their kind of games at the time, but it's just a fucking really good fantasy RPG. So I went and played it.
Yeah. Dragon Age Origins is so special for me. That's kind of what pulled me into BG3. I mean, I played every like Larian game from like Divinity Original Sin 1 and on. So it was like an easy sell. I was like, oh, you guys are just doing facial animation stuff now. This is crazy. But like, as I played it, I recognized like, oh, this is the spiritual sequel to Dragon Age Origins I never got that I wanted from BioWare forever. I think it speaks to the strength of D&D as well. Like if no one's played D&D, I think this game can get you into it because I haven't played it in years, but when I did play it for a little bit, I mean, it's a ton of fun. Like, and when you play in co-op with a buddy, like it's that same sort of like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be crazy. And we're going to see if we can actually get a unique ending to this quest because I'm going to do things this way. And the much like the finals what we were talking about, like this game just says yes to so much. It's really impressive. And they improve. I think it's also the modernization of all their systems. I don't think anyone denied that like Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 were great games, fantastic games even, but they were for players like me who just appreciated a good old CRPG. But then like Baldur's Gate 3 lets you like pull in the camera. It's more like a third person action game when you're roaming around the world. You're not viewing all the conversations from the sky. Like they're pulled in. These characters are lifelike. They have tons of unique dialogue animations that just bring them to life. Like it's really incredible.
It really sells and helps get you in there, like their 100%. Facial animations and stuff.
So I think it's
and
more
the VO
to
is
that.
So good.
Yeah, the VO is incredible. Yeah. So I think it's more to that than the D&D, although I think people are just going to learn how fun dice rolling is. So,
yeah. I love dice rolling. All right. One more from them. Patrick Soda. Sowada. There we go. Hey guys, want to contribute a little bit of criticism for Baldur's Gate 3 and see how you guys feel. I'm about 85 hours in. I'm still wandering through Act 3 because of all the content that is jam-packed into these acts. All of the party member quests continue to dive into the main story gets lost and all of the great sauce. Do you guys feel / experience that some of your favorite RPGs tend to lose focus with all the content that is being presented to the player that is not part of the critical path? I am not trying to say any of the side content is bad. It's not, but it's just too much of a good thing, a bad thing. Love the show, Brad. I was unfamiliar with your game, and for that, I apologize. Keep up the great work. Act 3 has like a shit ton of content in it.
Yeah.
And it can be easy to get distracted, I guess. But when I was playing it, I didn't do everything, but I just hit a point where I was like, okay, I feel comfortable, ready to end this game. Like, I feel like I didn't need to see everything. If I stumbled upon something, that's cool. And I kind of feel like that's the way to play that game.
Yeah.
Is just you go out there and you see what you find. If you miss something, that's just the way it is, and it's cool.
Yeah, it's like you got to go in with the acceptance of. I tell people go in with the acceptance of like I'm not going to see everything, and if you play this game like you are going to try to see everything, you'll still enjoy it a ton. It's a phenomenal game, but you might end up in this problem where you're trying to do too much. I had the same thing. Like we got to Act 3, did some of the side content. I got myself the Hellfire crossbow from one of these side quest areas, and I was like, okay, I think I'm pretty like geared up now. It's end game time. I did everyone's like loyalty mission, our personal quests, finished those all up. And from there just steamrolled the ending. And in that sense, Act 3, which is considered the biggest act in the game, is actually pretty quick. My first playthrough wrapped up in like 85 hours. So,
yeah, mine was like 80 something.
Yeah, like it's still a long game, don't get me wrong, but like I see a lot of people like, oh, I finished at 150. You can. But yeah, like any open world game or any dense RPG, like when you do more stuff, that's just like, it's almost the power's in your hands. Like, do you not want it to distract from the main story? Go play the main story stuff then, because this game will just give you endless amounts of shit to do if you let it. So as I just tell people, like it just, understand that even if you do everything, you're going to come back and realize you missed a ton of stuff. So
yeah. What do you think, Chris? Do you think you'll ever go back?
I think so. It is something that I don't know. I've had this experience a lot with games where like sometimes they won't hit me. Like I'll play it and it's just like not the right time for this. And then I'll go back like a couple years later, a couple months later, and it'll be like, oh, now's the right time. Or like or even games that I loved initially, I could tell like, whoa, if I played this game like a year ago, I would not have liked this. I just have I've experienced that enough. It happened to me with Witcher 3 actually, where Witcher 3 I heard so many good things about it, and I picked it up and I was like, why am I not clicking with this? And I put it down, and then I picked it up a year later, and the same thing happened again, where I was just like, oh man, I don't know what the hell's going on, man. And then what actually ended up happening was like I watched the first season of the show. Oh. The show came out, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. Like, yeah. And I felt more, even I don't love that show or anything, but like it was like, it got me into the headspace of like that world, I guess. And that time I picked up The Witcher 3 and I played it for like 40 hours or something, like some nonsense. It was like I finally like got into it.
Got it.
I think it's just I don't know. Yeah, Baldur's Gate. I think I might want to delve into some other similar games before I go back into it, because maybe I think it's the experience with that type of game that I'm missing, because I'm not a big CRPG guy. I'm not huge on turn-based. There's some turn-based games that I dabble in, but a game like this I don't have experience with. So like this is really my first jump in. I don't really play D&D either. So I'm really like lost in the sauce with a lot of this stuff. So I think it will definitely be a game that I get back to. I respect so much about it. Even as somebody who didn't jive that much with the combat, like there was so much about just the interactivity and the world that I really, really appreciated. The character voices, like the performances, the animation, just the overall look and soundscape of it. Like the sound design, I think is fucking fantastic. Like the soundtrack's awesome. I love the music, just even in the character creator. It's just iconic. So good. So it's definitely a game that I will come back to at some point. I just have to find a good time where there's I think this year is actually going to be a good one, because for me personally, there's not a lot that I'm looking forward to outside of Rebirth and I don't know, maybe Avowed. There's not really, assuming that's even I don't know, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of time for me to delve into it at some point this year. So I'm going to see. But as far as the question, like whether or not all the side content or all the content, the gem-packed content in a game like this distracts from the main story, I don't know if that I've ever really felt that ever outside of imposed urgency. Like, actually, I felt that a little bit with Baldur's Gate in the beginning, because you're like, oh, you got a limited amount of time before you become a thing, and I'm like, I don't know, I kind of want to meander around and smell the roses and not really think about that necessarily. So I feel like early on that happens, but I don't know, like I don't have experience with Act 3 here necessarily, but like I feel like by then you have a pretty good idea of the pace of things, and I don't know, I don't foresee that being a problem for me personally.
Chris, if you're looking for another, I guess, CRPG style title that I feel would be more up your alley, you should try Wasteland 3 if you haven't.
I've thought about that for a long time.
It's definitely your style of humor, I think. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, and I think you'll have fun with the shit you can do. It's not that long either, comparatively speaking. Like, I think you can beat it within 30 hours without, like, rushing it. You can play it in co-op if you want. And what it does really well is, even though it's turn-based, like, the enemy's turn just happens at once. So everything happens, and they immediately give you control. So you're playing the game more than watching the enemy do their thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just a suggestion. If you end up wanting to take a flyer on something, like I always tell people, like, Wasteland 3 is criminally overlooked as like one of the most accessible and amazing games in that style, genre.
It's so funny you say that, because that's a game that it's caught my eye so many times.
It's
Wasteland 3. Like,
I've good, man.
I've seen it like in my library, and I'm just like, I want to play this at some point. Like, I know that I
love the idea of playing it.
Yeah,
you do.
It's just it's so scary. Like, I don't know, man. I think I'll probably that is probably good, because that's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think I'll probably just make the leap. Once I'm done with the games that I'm playing now, I'll probably dive into it.
Yeah, you get some cool shit in that game. I won't spoil it, but it's so good.
All right, Chris. I'm really curious to see your thoughts on this. Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. Revisiting this game. This 10-year-old game.
I don't know. It's really I have such a strange history with this game, because I remember when it came out, I was really just not into it at all. I was like really disappointed with pretty much everything about it. Especially after, like, I don't know, Ground Zeroes came out the year before, and I remember being like, oh, I don't know what's going on exactly. I don't know what the
Chico.
I don't know what's Chico. I don't know why is Kiefer Sutherland here? Something strange.
Like
yeah, I'm not really that big on that either still. But I do have to say, like, and I probably would have never replayed this if not for the fact that a fan sent me a Steam Deck. He had an extra one.
Oh,
apparently, I don't know how you have that luck. Where you
must
have an extra
be nice.
Steam Deck. But I mentioned on, I think, either an episode of the Snark Tank, the show that I run, or Sacred Symbols, I can't remember which one, that I was interested in, like, I'm kind of interested in, like, trying a Steam Deck, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit pricey for something that I'm not sure that I'll really use. And maybe I'll borrow one or something. And somebody was like, I have an extra one, I'll send it to you. I was like, all right, fucking yeah. So I sent it to a PO box, and it was real. I thought there was like a 10% chance I could have exploded, maybe. It might have been like a bomb, but I took the chance. And I'm glad I did, because first of all, the Steam Deck's fucking really cool. It's a really awesome little machine. And I was just looking for games on Steam that I thought might go well with it. And I thought, I don't know what compelled me, but I was like, oh, Metal Gear Solid 5, I have that on Steam. Weird. Let me try it out. And I got so strangely sucked into it in a way that I really was not anticipating. It really works surprisingly well, especially as a portable game, because of the way that the missions are kind of pieced out in kind of open world, kind of like they're almost like, hey, it's an open world, but like, hey, go do this thing. You can almost get like one round in before you go to sleep every night, you know?
Yeah.
And in that sense, like I was getting really into it, and I always liked the gameplay of it. I always thought like there was like something to be said about the sandbox of Metal Gear Solid 5 and how versatile it is. And that remains true. It's just so much more in depth than I even remember it being. And I've grown to kind of really appreciate a lot of the meta narrative in this game, which I didn't really pick up on as when I played it originally in 2015. I was just kind of focused on the narrative as it presented itself, which was, you know, Kiefer Sutherland as Solid Snake, and it was really weird. I wasn't sure if I really got it or cared. But then they throw this mechanic at you, this kind of metagame where you're abducting enemy soldiers and you're evaluating them. You're just like, oh, you're an A-level ops person. I'm gonna abduct you. I'm gonna conscript you into my military. And then that strengthens your army, and then you get more currency to buy cooler weapons and like cooler sandbox tools and like a lot of like these really fun gadgets that I'm like, oh, this is sick. I'm gonna have a decoy snake that I can throw and like distract people and like set people up for like these awesome executions. And the more I got into it, the more I was like, oh, this is actually like a really smart way of making you a terrible person. Like the way that this game like plays with the idea of like, yeah, these are real people that you're abducting, but you're going to send them off screen to die on these suicide missions, basically. And you're just seeing like a status report, basically like, oh, this person died, and you're brushing past it just so you can see like how much money did I make. And like how many resources did I gather? Oh yeah, they're dead, but like an entire like 10 squadron of people are dead. But like, dude, now I get a bazooka, dude. This is sick, dude. And it really kind of caught me off guard with how clever that was, how clever it is, because there's like that's a big theme in Metal Gear Solid generally, like throughout the series, is like kind of like the, you know, obviously it's anybody who's played it knows like this. It's very anti-war, very anti-nuclear, all that kind of stuff. But to gamify the progression system in such a way that it kind of puts you in the headspace of somebody who is like really in charge of a paramilitary group. The idea of like, yeah, I want really cool things. I want cool sandbox opportunities. So yeah, I'm going to send these people to die. And I'm going to and I'm not really going to think about it. They're basically nameless. They don't even really have names. It's just like combinations of words. It's like, I think it's really like surprisingly clever on that front. It's actually like one of the more impactful parts of the game for me is just how it plays with the fact that it is a game and how it ropes you into it in a way that I didn't think I really picked up on. And well, I still feel like there's the traditional script or like the traditional narrative leaves a lot to be desired. That's absolutely true. It's nowhere near my favorite Metal Gear Solid narrative, but the way that I think it includes the player in it is really, really clever and really kind of, and I know it's not the first one to do this, by the way. I know that Peace Walker has a similar kind of mechanic, but the gameplay of Peace Walker never really spoke to me in the same way that it does here. Like there's something about how capable Snake is and how versatile he is and how much you can do. And it doesn't have that PS2 era kind of clunk to it.
Right.
That really kind of, it sells that a lot more because you're really having fun when you're planning C4 and like setting up all these things. It's like, okay, I'm going to get in and get out. I love stealth games too as well. So it's like a big boon for me, but yeah, I'm finding a lot to like about it in these really weird kind of meta contextual ways that I just completely missed out on when I played it originally. And yeah, still nowhere near my favorite Metal Gear Solid, but I like it a lot more than I thought I did. And it's been nice to kind of rediscover that, especially in the lens of like a handheld system, because I think it's weirdly perfect for it.
It's funny because if it's inspired by Peace Walker, that would make a lot of sense, right? Since that was a PSP game.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's weird. It almost feels like it should have been here in the first place, but the technology wasn't there.
Yeah. I look back at Metal Gear Solid 5 and not a great light. I remember the gameplay was super good, obviously. Like rolling around a snake, moving a snake, doing all that stuff as Snake is really, really good. And like you're saying, the fun stuff you could do, like the blow up doll and everything, like that's all really sick.
Or even just blasting like Rebel Yell by Billy Idol.
Yeah, exactly.
On the chopper. It's just like, it was ridiculous.
It's all really fun. I think I just didn't really like a lot of the missions and the locales they took place in. there wasn't like a lot of like cool tight spaces like there are in other Metal Gear games, right? It really felt like I was in that space, and it felt like a lot of it was like camps or whatever, which is fine, but I just needed more of that, like that Metal Gear setting feeling, I guess. The
100%.
story is all over the fucking place, in my opinion. I don't know what the hell was going, like, I don't know what the hell they were thinking of, like Venom Snake, like that whole payoff, dude. I was so mad at that. All that bullshit, and just the ending of the game is just like not there, unfortunately.
It's not finished. It's such a shame.
But it's like I can't deny that having D-Dog run out there and like maul some guy to death is cool. Like I love seeing D-Dog do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And some of the boss fights I thought were pretty fun. Like I enjoyed the sniper fights with Quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's definitely I felt that too. I do feel it still, actually. Like just like I wish there were like more like oil rigs or like facilities and stuff that I could like infiltrate, and there is something lost in the pursuit of this kind of open world Afghanistan, and there's not a lot of, it's got the Halo Infinite problem where there's just not a lot of biome diversity in it, and so it does lead to it feeling kind of samey.
Yeah, was there like 2 maps? Is that how many there are?
Yeah, it's oh man, I think it's Afghanistan, and I think
I remember this kind of like
Africa?
oil rig place.
Yeah, there's an oil rig in like one of them.
There's an oil rig, but that's like your base of operation. There's a point where you go. Okay, maybe there's a place where you go to one, but
I don't know. It's a different mission zone.
Yeah, there's a different mission zone.
Yeah, but you're right. It's not as different in that sense. But there is something about just the versatility of Snake and just how it's weird. It's kind of like if there's like something, and this is going to sound disparaging, but I mean it in the nicest way possible. It feels like a good way to do like kind of like a Ubisoft style stealth game. Like if Ubisoft ever did Splinter Cell anything like this is how they would have to do it. Like, because it is, from a stealth perspective, really, it's fun to like creep in the bushes and kind of like crawl underneath like these platforms and like figure out your way in. But like, I'm definitely with you where like, I wish there were big like buildings and like bigger kind of places to infiltrate and make use of all this cool, these cool sandbox items that I feel in the main missions anyway, don't really get a lot of room to shine. But I really feel like it's the meta narrative that's keeping me hooked. Just like you sending my guys off and like seeing how many of them die and like what I got out of it and whether or not it was worth it. And like just even just the idea of like measuring that internally, like as a thought process is like really, I don't know, it's captivating in a way that I didn't, I wish I had picked up on earlier, because there is like a Kojima cleverness here where I initially was very disappointed, and because the story, like you said, like it's just not, it doesn't hold a candle to Metal Gear Solid 2 or 3 or or even the first one, which is like a lot simpler but still incredible. I don't know, I appreciate it quite a bit.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. I that was a game that I remember I put 40 solid hours into and really enjoyed. And I just remember the illusion just snapped one moment. Like I think I was just going back to Afghanistan for the millionth time, like trudging the same roads on foot, stealing the same car. Yeah. And you just had that moment where you're like, the fuck am I doing? I just broke out of the experience. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm doing this again. I've done this for 40 hours. And that was kind of it. Like, you know what's funny is I've only had 2 games in my lifetime where I had that kind of like, I ignored the main story and just played the game for a long period of time. And I walked away totally satisfied. Like, it was that game and it was XCOM Enemy Unknown. XCOM Enemy Unknown, I was still on like the first mission, like capture the alien and analyze them. And I was like, okay, cool. And I just didn't pay attention to that and just kept growing my army and just like running down every encounter. And I did that for like 50 hours. And I was just like, all right, I'm done. I actually beat XCOM too, but with XCOM Enemy Unknown, I had that same thing. I was totally happy with it. And it was the same thing with MGS5. I was like, this story kind of sucks. Like, all right, whatever. Like, this is really fun to play though. Just because to me, I feel like Kojima peaked with MGS2 and 3. In particular, I'm an MGS2 guy. I love
me too.
MGS2.
That's a controversial opinion, man.
Really? You can't beat the ending though. You can't fucking beat the ending. Like, that's one of the most incredible parts of his career.
It is, yeah.
The foresight of that ending. I won't say anymore.
Wait, are you saying MGS2 is controversial?
It's controversial to. So what I mean is it's controversial. I've had many people bring this up to me where it's like, how do you not like Metal Gear Solid 3 the most? You're insane. I'm just like, I like Metal Gear Solid 3. I do. But like, I love 2. Like 2 is like, there's something about 2. 2 is cozy to me. It's like,
I
don't know what it is.
Shit, man. Like, oh God.
I think
I love 2.
4 is probably the most controversial now.
Oh, well, yeah. Barring the obvious one.
I like 4, dude. 4's sick, man. I won't hear it.
I never finished that one. I got halfway through. I was waiting for PS3 trophies. They finally got it, and then my game bricked. And I couldn't go forward anymore. But I loved what I played at MGS4.
4 wraps up everything so nicely, and it truly feels like the end of Metal Gear Solid as we know it. Then they're just like, oh, here's Metal Gear Solid 5 now, by the way. And it doesn't fucking matter. You're like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
it's not even finished.
It's definitely so separate. But yeah, I played Metal Gear Solid 4 like a long, long time ago. And I don't know what it was, but I really hated it.
Dude.
I really, like, I didn't finish. I felt like I was watching more than I was playing, and that really bothered me.
There's a lot of cutscenes. Yeah, a lot of cutscenes for sure.
So I've heard.
Yeah, I suspect though that like I was also like, dude, what was that? 2008, 7 maybe. What year was Metal Gear Solid 4?
Yeah, it was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I wonder how I would feel about it if I played it today.
Yeah,
if only there was a way to natively play it.
Probably the next collection.
Yeah, Volume 1, right? And then
praying for that.
Volume 2 is gonna have MGS4.
They fucking better.
Because you like Death Stranding, right?
I did.
Ton of cutscenes.
Which, by the way, exactly that's another example of a game. It's like, dude, if I had played this even 2 months ago, at the time that I was playing it, I would have fucking hated it. I was actually really excited for Death Stranding to come out because I was excited to laugh at it. Like I was just like, there's no way this. I was like, there's no way this is gonna be a good game. Like, what the fuck is it got? You got fucking Walking Dead man walking through the
baby backpack.
Yeah, he's carrying a baby through like. Just empty space. How is this possibly? How could this possibly be engaging? And then like I downloaded it, and I literally 5 minutes, and I was like, God damn it! I hate that I like it.
Yeah,
I hate that I liked
it,
dude. And I really enjoyed it. I finished it. I have obviously complaints with it. Obviously, like with any game, but like I definitely feel like that's another one of those games where like you look at the watch at 30 hours, and you're like,
damn. Yeah.
What do you? What are we getting at here? But still, enjoyed that game way more than I anticipated. But yeah.
Keith Golfer wrote in, MGS5 is just a Far Cry game with crap story. Discuss. Smiley face with a monocle.
It's my favorite kind of Far Cry game for sure. Like I don't disagree with that necessarily. Like I think it's a bit reductive, but yeah, it's definitely like a Ubisoft-ish open world. I wouldn't say exactly, but like it's definitely like, here's an environment, here's a bunch of outposts. There are missions in these outposts. Go do them. The thing that I would disagree with is I think Sandbox. I think Far Cry Sandbox is pretty fucking weak, actually. I don't think there's really much meat there. I think Far Cry uses kind of like the world around you to sell more of, like, it uses the world more to sell you the time, to sell you the experience more than it uses like the gameplay mechanics. I always find, especially in like Far Cry, I remember, what was the one with Pagan Min? Was that 4?
Yes.
4, yeah.
Yeah, like with, I don't know, you start to see the cracks a little bit. You see like, here's a ledge with ropes on it. So I guess that means I can climb it. And just, I don't know. It's
fair enough.
It's weird. Like, but I'm into it in the way that they did it. Like, definitely the story is not great. The written story.
Yeah.
I love the meta narrative though. Like, I love it. Like I'm almost making my own story in my head about it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, all right, this is my snake and I'm like a fucking asshole. I'm sending all these people. I was like, yeah, I don't care if you die. I want my harpoon or whatever the hell. So yeah, that's definitely a read. I think it's a bit reductive, but I see where you're coming from.
Zunt wrote in, sup bitches? For me, Metal Gear Solid 5 was one of the best games last generation. Married only by undercooked campaign. Just how good is Metal Gear Solid 5 in your opinion? Thanks.
Yeah, I just wish there was more diversity, man. That's it. Like the gameplay's there, the sandbox is there, just more places. you know, to really flex those muscles, because I do think the open world is, it's not the most thrilling open world in the world that exists. Not even, especially now with like a modern lens where like you've played Elden Ring, and the Elden Ring blew my fucking mind when I played it. I couldn't believe how dense that open world was. So like at a level where I'm like, I can't imagine anybody else doing this better.
Bro, when I randomly got teleported by a chest in that game and I ended up in the middle of the fucking woods, I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, and then you look at the map and you're so far away from where you are, and you're like, how big is it? And then it gets bigger,
and it's go underground.
And then you go underground. Dude, it's Elden Ring. I could talk about Elden Ring for hours. I'm so enamored with my first experience with that. That's one of those games that I wish I could play that for the first time again.
Yeah.
You know, like that experience is crazy.
Good news, Chris. It's the last game we're talking about.
Hey,
Elden Ring.
Hell yeah.
I've been playing through Elden Ring just to prep for the DLC that's coming up. I started a new character. And I've also been doing the seamless co-op mod with Dustin on the side.
Oh.
Which has been a lot of fun. Yeah, guys, Elden Ring is fucking one of the greatest video games, I think, of all time. Easily one of the best open world games of all time. Still.
Yeah.
Even just when I started it up again and you take that first step out into Limgrave and you see, they give you the Zelda Breath of Wild shot. You just see the castle, Stormville Castle in the background, the Erd tree back there, just like that huge night walk around. It's like they know exactly how to make your first encounter with the world to be like, oh shit, I'm terrified, but also extremely intrigued, and I want to see everything. And it's great because they give you the freedom to go pretty much wherever you want. You may get your ass kicked, but they let you do, which I really love. Not many games get to do that nowadays, especially because some of the difficulty spikes. Like if you go into high level Elden Ring areas, like you're gonna get fucking stomped real quick, and they like don't encourage you really. Like you got to go out of your way to do it in a lot of ways, but they do let you do it if you so desire. And man, just the level design of the world itself, it's so much sweet verticality, tons of hidden little caves with meaningful loot, like new weapon arts or new weapons, upgrades, always something you want to get for it. Like even in like the early catacombs you go down, dude, there's just some fucking fire trap just breathing fire at you, or there's like huge like little like gargoyle guys that just fuck you up. It's like everything in this world is out to kill you, but somehow in a fun way. Like it's a horrifying world, but it's still goofy to an extent and funny.
It feels weirdly inviting despite how punishing of an experience it is. It's strange. It's such a fascinating it's weird because this was really my first. Well, I wouldn't say it was my first, because I definitely dabbled in Bloodborne and Dark Souls, and I don't know. I couldn't. There was something about it. It was just like it demanded too much from me.
Mm-hmm.
And Sekiro was when I first started. Sekiro was the game for me where I was like, oh, this is kind of great. And I think a lot of that came from just the verticality of just being able to jump. Like I feel like there's something about video games and jump buttons. Like I need a jump button.
Elden Ring, you got the jump button, dude.
And Elden Ring, you got it. And just the versatility of it, and just like the fact that you could summon your horse and your horse could jump and do all this shit. It was
double jump,
just like, you're double jumping. It's so cool. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's fun and it's engaging, and I don't know, man. I was so, even just the little things about it, like even just like I know there's like an attachment. I can't remember the exact terms, because it's been a while since I played Elden Ring. But you get this thing where you can get like a lantern around your waist so you can see like in the dark. But I loved imposing this like difficulty on myself where it's like, I'm not going to use my lantern. I'm going to pull out a torch and raise it.
Oh,
when I go because I love anytime a game lets you do something like that.
Yeah.
Like immerse yourself in that way where it's like, I can't see, let me raise my torch. I have to equip it. I have to use it. And if I get caught off guard, I get caught off guard. And that's just what happens.
But it's a cool trade-off because the torch, I think you get a little extra light
Yeah.
like a little more. But the lamp, obviously, it's dimmer, but you can have your two hands.
You can have your two weapons. Yeah, there's a lot of thought in there, and I just love how broken, you can just approach this like your build from any number of ways, and it's like you could just totally break the game. You can make the game a cakewalk if you really wanted to.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, you can.
Yeah, I remember like people were calling me a scrub early on when I played it for the first time on stream because I was like I had a katana that did bleed damage and it was just so good. Yeah. And I'm just like, how am I not?
I know what you're talking about.
It was just so it was so it was just so unreasonably good. And I'm like, and also just like I just gravitate to lighter it doesn't weapons. Help that I just gravitate to it. Like if I'm given the option to play a FromSoft game in whatever way I want, I'm doing a Sekiro. Because I loved that game so much.
Yeah, like Sekiro is amazing.
But yeah, Elden Ring hit different, man. That was an open world that I just could not. I was just consistently overwhelmed in the best way. Like the feeling of wonder that I got in that game is kind of not. I've never felt that again, or really, even really before. Like it was just so like going underground and finding. Like when you get in that elevator or like there's this like old stone elevator and you go down, you think you're getting, I immediately thought, I was like, I'm going to go into some cave or
just some bullshit cave.
And then you keep going. You're like, what the fuck? This is a long elevator. And then you go outside and you see the sky again underground.
Yeah.
You're like, how big is this fucking game? This is crazy. It's unparalleled work as far as like open world games and just such an approachable game too from FromSoft.
I think it's their most approachable game for sure because they give you so many tools. Like the Spirit Ashes alone can help you out a ton.
Well, just even if you're just stuck somewhere, you can just go somewhere else.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's a huge part.
That was a sticking point for me with like a lot of older FromSoft games where I just felt like, fuck, this ain't hitting right now. Like I'm not getting it. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, I got to put this down and maybe I'll come back to it tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes because something happens tomorrow and then, or like some other game comes out. And then by the time I get back to it, I'm so bad at it because my muscle memory is deteriorated. Then I'm like, it's fucked. Can't do it. But yeah, Elden Ring is a special, like once in a generation game for sure.
Yeah. I just think about some of the boss fights. We were talking about Liza P earlier, which I think do have really good boss fights. But I think about the boss fights in Elden Ring specifically, like how insane and over the top like they are. Like even early ones with Godric, where he has like the grafted limbs all over him. Then he fucking chops off his arm and puts a dragon on his arm. Then he's shooting fire at you.
It's so fucking insane.
Radon, later on the Radon Festival, where he's just out there on his horse, man, and you could summon people there. So fun, the Radon Festival, like the lore tied around it, just trying to kill him and all that stuff.
Yeah.
God damn, there's so many sick bosses in that game.
Yeah, and what is it? Is it Caelid or?
Caelid's a zone, yeah.
Caelid
is like a nightmare zone. It's infected.
That was the first time I remember in a long time. Oh, maybe not a long time. Like I think maybe Resident Evil Village got this feeling out of me too. But like it's the first time I've been disturbed by enemy designs in a while.
They're like insects.
Those fucking dogs are so freaky looking. I hate those goddamn dogs.
Yeah,
it's gross. They're so gross.
Yeah,
but yeah, so good.
And it's like I've played this game 4 times with 3 completely different characters so far. And they all play so different, man. Like the amount of flexibility I've had to change my playstyle is just like unreal. It's kind of staggering how much and how many weapons there are. And these weapons sometimes have their own unique animations. It's fucking crazy. It is truly like the culmination of everything they had learned as a studio up until that point.
Yeah.
The bleed build is so much fun. I didn't start with that. I was more of like a paladin kind of build with light magic, which played out excellently for me in the final fight in the game. But then I respect afterwards after I saw a bunch of guides online showing this bleed build, and I was like, let me give it a shot because I beat the game without it ever in this moment. Oh my god, it's so much fun.
It trivializes a lot of the fights, but it's still You still have to. Yeah, you can't be bad at it. It's not like those because there are certain magic builds that are ridiculous. You can just fucking Kamehameha people from across the map and like one shot bosses. That's too broken. But Bleed is like a nice mix of like you have enough to fall back on where like there are some get out of jail free cards, but you still have to like know your shit. You still have to parry. You still have to know what you're doing and be competent, which is what I liked about it. I get overwhelmed by a lot of those builds sometimes. Like I look at how much you can do, and I'm just like, I always default to like my ninja.
Oh yeah, that's
like
fine.
My ninja Tenchu ass build, and I'm happy with it.
Dude, every first From Software game I play, I just do a strength build, pure strength right off the bat.
100%. Yeah,
and I'm just dual wielding the heaviest fucking weapons I can find, and I'm like face planting bosses, and it's the best feeling ever. Like face planting Melania is like top dopamine around.
Yes.
Yeah.
She took me so many tries.
Yeah. She took me a lot of tries. She was hard, man.
I almost beat her first try. I was like so excited. I'm kind of happy I didn't get that though. I would have been robbed of like that great experience.
Yeah. I'm at her. And then I stopped playing because I had to move on to other things. And then I went back to it. And then I went back to it. And then I was like, my muscle memory is so fucked. I can't do this. No, I'm just stuck in. I might just start a new playthrough though. Honestly, like I've been itching. I've been itching for it.
That's great on Steam Deck.
Yeah, I tried it a little bit on the plane because I was home for holiday break, and I played it on the plane a little bit.
Yeah, dude. Just look up and like an OP build or something like that. Yeah. Just fucking go to town, man.
Just cheese the game. I mean, that's what's great about it, I think, is like it's technically From Soft's easiest game when you really look at it, which I don't think is a problem because it's still kind of difficult.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
If you have the knowledge, it can be one of the easier ones. It seems like.
Yeah. What I love about it too is that FromSoft has such versatility and just how because like I feel like Sekiro and Elden Ring are such polar opposites, not necessarily in how they specifically play, but in their approach. Like you could just. Because Elden Ring is like this really wide ocean where you could just you could make whatever the hell you want to make. You could make whatever character you want to make. You could have a guy that just punches dragons, you know, like it's ridiculous. Or you could have like a wizard or like any of these number of things. And Sekiro harkens to this kind of like almost like NES style philosophy where it's like, this is your character, this is what you can do, and that's the game. And I loved both of them. I loved both of them for that reason. Like Sekiro is approachable for all the reasons that Elden Ring wasn't, and vice versa. Where it's like I loved Sekiro specifically because I wasn't necessarily. I didn't have to think about like, oh, what weapon am I gonna? What build am I gonna craft? It's like, okay, no, this is this character. This is his moveset. This is what he can do. All right, I can hone in on like what I can do as a character. And Elden Ring's the opposite, where it's just like you're so flexible. And you can just do anything. They're really a remarkable studio, and I've really kind of come around on them lately. Like just because I never really, I don't know, until they added that jump button, I just kind of wasn't. I wasn't feeling it really.
And jump buttons are good. They're important.
That verticality, man, I need it. I need
it. They went so long without it.
Mainly. It is. And the jump buttons in past games were so bad too.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys think? What are the odds that the next FromSoft game doesn't have a jump button? Like, do you think that's here to stay? Or
I think low.
Good.
I think it's low.
Yeah, I feel like they got to stick with it because like they were. It's so funny to say they were building towards that jump button. Thinking like the level design could actually support it.
I love the idea that they
I
were
kind of like the games absent. I'm weird. Like I like that the games were absent with the jump button because it was like okay, you had to build around it. So instead of like leaping to a platform, you had to creatively roll off one. It was about dropping down to things, or with how janky the jump was, is about like timing it. I felt it was part of the challenge. Not that removing that was anything that hurt Elden Ring, but I never had a major issue without it. But I think with Elden Ring, it fits really well with how much freedom the game gives you. It should just give you the jump button.
Yep. All right, Connor Reese wrote in, "Greetings, gentlemen. Brad, since you've been replaying Elden Ring, have your thoughts on the game evolved or changed in any way since those first playthroughs? Is there anything in the game that bothers you now that maybe didn't bother you at the time? As a longtime listener of EZA, I'm thrilled that you're part of Last Stand Media, and you are very welcome in this community. Thank you." So my thoughts on the game have changed slightly just because the game runs a lot better than when I reviewed it. Particularly, I reviewed it on PC. And that was the reason I didn't give it a 10, is because it was just, I couldn't, in good graces, give it a 10. But
I played the entirety of it. I played like 100 hours of it, where every 20 minutes I would get 5 seconds of freezing.
That's so brutal.
And I still loved it. That's how good that game. That's how good that game is. Where like I put up with it.
In terms of mechanically or like stuff in the game, I don't know if everything's changed too much. Where I'm still like, yeah, this is still one of the best open world games ever made. But I'm playing through it right now. I'm curious to see how I feel after I complete it again. Maybe I'll feel a little different this time. But so far, I still love it.
I soured a bit on how they handled side quests because the world was so big, and I feel like the side quests were interesting and I wanted to pursue them, but you had to pursue them in very specific ways and spots. And
yeah.
That was like one thing I was critical about it at launch, but as I get further from it, I'm like, why'd you guys do it this way? Like, it just feels, everything else is so open, discover when you want, however you want. And your side quests are like these most rigid, like it's from their past design.
Yeah.
It's like rigid, hit them at specific points. Oh, you missed it. It's done. You don't even know it's done. I'm not asking for a waypoint, although I don't think some form of guidance in like a radius would have hurt. But yeah, for me, like that's kind of like the big thing that shifted for me is like my distaste for how they handle the side content has grown a little bit.
Yeah, they're very much a studio that are like, yeah, we don't care if you miss our side quests kind of thing like
Which
that.
I respect. Yeah, I just think because they're good and I want to do them, and if it's the problem is not like if they get canceled out or they don't care if they miss them, it's missing them by like missing I'm doing 2 steps in a 5-step quest and I missed step 3 because I like completed this boss fight over here before I talked to this person in the middle of the woods.
Yeah,
it's like,
I get that.
This shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they could handle a little better. They like post-launch, they added where you could see where NPCs were actually on the map now.
Oh,
like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because back in the day, like you didn't know. You're just like, oh, I hope I remember where they are, or you'd have to leave your own marker. But now they like have little marks there about where the characters are. Cool. Not necessarily like a quest guide though, like a journal you would go through that could help you, anything like that. But at least they're like, here they are on the map.
Know where they are. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, I think they'll continue to do small things like that in their future games.
Yeah, that's a happy medium for me. I'm okay with that. I apologize. I wasn't aware of that.
Evan Erickson, Brad, what are you hoping most for the Elden Ring DLC? I'm hoping it's standalone expansion instead of the previous DLC formula. I have a save backed up on a USB drive right before the final boss, just in case, though. Welcome to the LSM family, Evan from Queens. Thank you. Standalone DLC, I think, is always nice, where you can just hop into it. Like, it's far in the game, but devs are like, hey, you shouldn't play this unless you play the other game. But like The Witcher does it, where it's like, cool, I can just hop into Blood and Wine. I don't want to play the whole game. But Elden Ring from Software is always like, nah, dude, you gotta go to this one random spot. You got to find this fucking person. Got to do this thing. You got to be in this far into the game. And I feel like that's just they'll continue doing that trend kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not my favorite way of implement. Like Phantom Liberty was great. Like I had such a good time with Phantom Liberty, but it did annoy me that it was just sort of in the middle of this game because I had already finished Cyberpunk. So to me, I'm just like, okay, is this canon to my? You know what I mean? There's something about it that was like really disruptive to my experiences. Like I kind of wish that we had more standalone DLC in general because I just feel like that's such a cleaner way of dealing with certain things. I also feel like, by the time you're done with a game, like, do you really want to 3 years later install like 100 gigs of a game you already played, play it through to the point where the DLC would be active? I don't know. It's a little convoluted and messy sometimes, although obviously like it doesn't really matter because Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty was great and I did get to it and I did enjoy it. So it really is just like a minor hiccup, but I definitely do prefer standalone. But I don't think that's what this is going to be.
No.
Yeah. My preference is when they ingrain it with the core experience. So like think of the Outer Worlds as a recent example. Like they added Murder on Eridanos, they added Peril on Gorgon. And they were like separate planets that you unlocked at certain levels. So if you were to play all of this together, I know it's not ideal for people hopping back in who are like mid playthrough or had like dead save files or like end playthrough. But I think it's important as a starting point to kind of build it off something that already exists. Yeah. So I like it when like, oh, and at this midway point, you can go to like the Shadow of the Air Tree or something like that. So I liked how the Outer Worlds did it, where it was like, be a specific level, part of your playthrough, and like get there, and it's part of the main journey, and it plays kind of nicely into the end of it all. I get it's not ideal, but I think when that, I think of it, I guess maybe a little too businessy. Like when that complete edition comes around, or definitive edition, or whatever they call it, that has it packaged in, it's gonna be the best way to have it, instead of like, okay, I beat the game, I go to main menu and I'll fire up Shadow of the Air Tree. I'm like, it's. But
that's kind of the problem though, because like sometimes I think like when a game comes out and I know it's going to have DLC, it's like, well, I should just wait for the finished one when all of it's in there, so it's not like I don't have this fragmented experience.
That makes sense. Yeah,
but I don't know. I think it has its place. I think for open world games especially, I think it does make sense. I just kind of wish it didn't make so much sense. I guess is what I'm saying.
I have a feeling the DLC will be pretty late game. Judging by the picture we saw, it seems to be Mikola who was in that cocoon with Moog. So that's pretty far into the game. So I assume you'll have to kill Moog, then maybe you'll get to do it. So, but yeah, that's all I got guess wise. I never know what the From Software is going to do or how they'll handle it.
I hate that I know Mikola only because of Mulaney's boss intro. Like, only a blade of Mikola. I'm like, fuck, it's burned into my head.
Yeah, dude. Cool. We're going to do some emails now. We're going to end out the show with some emails like many Last Stand podcasts. We got a couple here for you today. If you want to send in a question, head over to patreon.com/laststandmedia. I think $2 and up, you get to submit for these shows. Sure. All right, let's go. First one is from Chris Morey. Oi, gents. With E3 sunsetting into the horizon, soon to be nothing more than a memory of nostalgia, I can't help but feel the corporate deliverability of the industry in the modern day. E3, while not being without problems, made video game events full of life and rivalries that led to interesting reveals, commercials, and the energy that seems to be lacking today. While the industry is thriving as far as quality of content and financial success, I feel as it is losing personality with just trailers as PlayStation Directs and weird AI-style voices announcing games with Nintendo. I miss the personality and edge of, dare I say, the Sega Genesis. Did it breed Sonic? Yes. Did it make the industry fun and interesting? Yes. Does Chris love the weird PS3 commercials? I'll let him answer that. It says yes.
Yeah.
Am I alone here now, or is this being felt among y'all as well? Loving the new show, and be sure to summon Knights of the Round for a quick defeat all the podcast competition. Best, Chris. So yeah, marketing was definitely a little more unhinged back in the day, a little more creativity for sure. You got Crash Bandicoot screaming at Nintendo's building or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and all that shit.
That's right.
Yeah, Nintendo does, or like Sega does when Nintendo don't. All the console war shit going on there. But now at the same time, we have people doing that online for free for them, so they don't need to make those commercials anymore.
Oh God.
And I think E3 is super fun. I personally really loved it all, but it's probably just way easier for them to control the message as it is now and make sure it comes out as they want it to be shown. No more live demos of Nathan Drake falling through the floor, which we love. We love that kind of shit.
It's great, like, man. That stuff's great. Like I've long been ringing this bell where like, I understand why it's gone. It's a relic of a different time. There's so much money in the games industry now that like, why would you bank it all on a live demo that could go wrong? It is dumb to do that. But it was more human, and it was more. I don't know. There was something more exciting about having everybody go at once, as opposed to this weird kind of fragmented system that we have now, where it's like, here's a state of play, here's an Xbox Wire, here's a Nintendo Direct, and there's 5 of them. throughout the year, and most of them are really underwhelming because there's contractual obligations to get a lot of these things out the door, where it's like, I feel like, I don't know, it felt like every E3 for a while, especially like in the 2010s, it started to feel like anybody would walk away from that week with something they were excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was one thing. Like, it was like, oh, whoa, or even just one point of contention where it's like, did you see that Wii Music demo? Did you see Mr. Caffeine at the EA or Ubisoft stage or whatever? Whoever hired Mr. Caffeine, I wish I could remember. I think it was Ubisoft. Yeah. But I don't know. There was something about the excitement and the cringe and the humanity of it that was just all very, very unifying. It felt like at the time that it was like Christmas and the Super Bowl wrapped into one for me.
Yeah.
And I would have parties. I had people come over to my house. Like, we would watch especially when they used to go on the same day. Specifically, I remember Xbox and PlayStation went on the same day for a while. It was so Xbox fun. Earlier in the day, and then PlayStation at night. It was awesome. Like, my favorite day of the year, hands down, was that day.
Yeah.
Because it was just so fun. I'd have people come over immediately after school. There was I remember my senior year of high school, 2011, or it might have been the year before, 2010, where they unveiled the oh my God, the Xbox 360 Slim, the shiny one. I think it was 2010. And I had a study hall period at the end of school, and it was like starting, and I was like, me and my friends were like, let's just go home. Like, and I skipped school basically to start this. And my mom came through the door like 10 minutes after us with pizza, because she just understood, like, oh yeah, it's E3, it's E3 day, and it's in June, so it's the end of the year anyway. But like, those memories are really great, and like, it just you'd watch the press conferences, and then you'd have hours of just playing games or just like listening to music and eating snacks and just hanging out, and then the PlayStation show would start, and it was just a great day. And I miss that. And I lament the fact that we don't have it anymore, but I understand that, like, it's an outdated model. It doesn't fit with what they're trying to do. It's much more efficient for them to control the message if they just have these predetermined directs. Are they infinitely more boring? Are they infinitely more inhuman? Are they infinitely more dissatisfying? Yes. almost by every metric. But it's smarter and safer for them to do it, so they're going to do it. And it's I don't know. I do wish we could have more of those. I think in some ways the Game Awards kind of carries that spirit a little bit, right? Like, granted, please wrap it up. Not great, but it is nice to have people up there for, even if for a little bit, even if they are going to get cut off, to just be like, hey, I made this game for my dad who passed away or whatever, or like, hey, we want to thank everybody who gave their time to this or whatever. It's like, it reminds me of those very human moments throughout E3. I think of this moment a lot. The Unravel, when they unveiled Unravel,
right?
And that guy was on stage, and he had like the little yarn character.
His hands
and it did a close up of his hands, and he was trembling so hard. And look, I laughed. It was funny, but it was also so endearing.
Yeah,
like, there was something so, I don't know. Like, I loved that. And we don't have that anymore, and it's sad, but I get it. It's a billion dollar a year industry now, way bigger than it used to be. A lot more is riding on these kinds of things, and so it is what it is.
Yeah, it's really expensive to do those shows for those companies too. I know, a fuck ton of money. But like you, Chris, I do miss especially seeing the developers out there talking about their game, like showing it off. I hope they incorporate that more, I guess, into the modern era of presentations. Like, I want to see more of the devs talking about the game. Yeah,
I think that was one of the things I loved about that that Starfield direct that they had before the game came out. They had all those all the people at the Bethesda talking. I was like, this is great.
Yeah,
I love this. I love seeing the people who make the shit that we care about. Like, ideally we would see more of them. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of float in the camp of like, for a long while, I feel like people were trying to will E3's death into existence before it was actually ready to die. A lot of the games media in particular was just like, it's dead, it needs to die, because they hated going there. And I always kind of had the motto of like, be careful what you wish for, because I just feel we got a good taste of that at the end of last year. We saw how corporate the Game Awards truly were. I mean, many people saw it for what it was for a while, but I feel like the end of last year, that's like kind of our E3 now. Like that's the big event with the big announcements that gets millions of viewers that you can just count on for things to be happening there.
Yeah. And it's literally
there is still that kind of live element, right? Where, like you can have the the Bill Clinton gig kind of moment or some crazy shit where, it's got a little bit of all of that, but I feel like I'm not trying to be like a nostalgia hog here. I do feel like some of the magic is gone with E3 completely out of the picture. And I feel bad for, like, Chris, your stories resonate with me because I feel bad for people who are going to grow up without it because it's kind of like the thing that they'll never know they missed as the industry grows. And I think it's why so many people our generation love games. I had the same thing. Like I'd invite friends over. It was like a big, like, my brother always, like, big sports guy, would always have friends over for like big games. But like for me, like that was the day I had friends over. Like it was E3, like it was the summer showcases, like 2 days of just awesome stuff being shown off and, like taking notes on all the exciting stuff that I wanted to play. Like, I don't know. It just, there was a magic to that. And I feel like this is what happens when gaming grows is now it's more of a business than ever before. And so it's going to operate like one. And so you get stuff like the Game Awards where it's very, very clearly a business more than anything. And I do think there's a line we can walk. I'm curious to see how they respond to the criticism at the end of this past show. Now, count me as one who's not optimistic. I don't think the show's going to change really at all. And I'm not even saying that just out of blind pessimism. I just think that show is designed to make money, and for them to walk away from what distracted from and destroy the show was the things that make them money, and they're going to choose that more probably
and
every other day.
It keeps growing too.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
There's a lot
it's
of
huge.
it's
so they're not going to be like, oh, we made like $1 billion. Oh, and you don't like that we told people to wrap it up? Well, we're going to go do that again because we made $1 billion. So it's like,
it's I think
I get it, but it sucks. It blows.
Of the live shows in entertainment that kind of celebrates things like that, like it is the highest, like it is the one that grows consistently. Whereas like Oscars and, Golden Globes, they just continuously kind of either meander around the same line or fall. Like Game Awards keeps growing. So they're doing right by a business metric, but yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you where it's probably going to be very much the same.
Yeah.
And the sad reality is too, like, I don't know if it could really be much better than this for what they're trying to do. Like, I don't know who would be more fitting to do this other than Jeff Keighley. And if this is like what he can do, like, this might be just the best version of this that we can get, which really fucking blows. But, I don't know. The magic is, I'm going to miss that, man. That was especially as I became an adult and like I had my own place. Like when I started having people over for E3, it was a way bigger thing. I was so excited to keep that tradition going. And now that's just kind of gone. And it's lame.
Well, Summer Games Fest may get bigger as time goes on. I will say, as someone who was there last year, like on the floor of it or whatever, it was pretty good. I was pretty surprised by how well it was, and it had grown greatly from the year before. And like when I was there, Phil Spencer was walking around there, like looking at probably floor space and stuff like that. So they definitely will need to move if they're going to start getting a lot more people. But it seems like some devs are cool with the floor space thing coming back, at least for like media or something like that. So we'll see how that goes, though.
Yeah, I've not been, so hopefully that'd be cool.
Yeah, hopefully you get to go. It was good.
Yeah,
it was well done.
I don't doubt that it was probably a better, like, because E3, even as I was watching it like from home, like I never thought, like, at some point I definitely wanted to be there, but like early on I wasn't necessarily like, ooh, I want to be there in person. I was happy enough sitting at home comfortably watching all this stuff being shown to me. You know what I mean? I didn't necessarily need to play it early, but I would bet that Summer Games Fest as an event to go to is probably a lot more fulfilling, a lot better than any E3 probably was.
Yeah.
But the cultural impact for sure is.
Yeah, it's way different, definitely.
Yeah.
But there's some spirit of it there.
For sure.
We'll see as we go forward. All right. This is from Devin Size. Matt, I'm curious to hear what you think about this one. Hey, Summoners. My quick question is simple. What do Xbox fans have to look forward to in 2024, and what does the release slate look like? What games are you most looking forward to? I'm primarily a PS5 and Switch player, but I know I'll eventually need an Xbox as a Bethesda fan. When will I need to pull the trigger? Looking forward to seeing how the new show progresses. Thanks, guys.
What a well-timed question, because what the fuck? Like they might just be bringing games over to other platforms. So who knows? In all seriousness, I think a lot. I've gone on record multiple times as saying I think 2024 will be like the big year for this generation for Xbox. 2023 was like the kickstart, and it was definitely the most important. I think even though like the quality may vary to people depending on who you ask, like I think they nailed it. I think they got the ABK merger done. Starfield, at least business-wise, did what it had to do, and then some. Hi-Fi Rush was awesome. Redfall was the black eye of the year. It really just was a stain on otherwise a great year for them. Developer direct format was great. So I feel like 2024, you got the good stuff to really take away, and a lot of the distractions from the FTC gone. So now you've got developer direct, apparently. You've got the showcase format there. You've got the summer showcase pretty much as a lock. And so when you look at that, and then all of the rumored titles and the announced titles, like there's rumored ones, the Oblivion remake, new game from id, Indiana Jones. We have announced ones. Hellblade needs a date. Avowed needs a date. Towerborn needs a date. Microsoft Flight Simulator needs a date. ABK back compat. There's a rumor that's coming back. So that would be kind of cool to see like some old Activision games make their way back. If you're into the Game Pass ecosystem, then they're going to be gradually, I think, dipping Activision games in all year. I don't think they're going to do what they did with Bethesda, which was Bethesda. They put like 20 games in at once and then like another 20 plus games. And that was it. And they didn't really use that content library to like gain subs. So I feel like there's that they're going to do. New Spyro game. We don't know if that's going to be exclusive or not. This is going to be the year we find out if Xbox is going to take existing IP and make them exclusive, which again, like with the news of like Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, I'm like, I don't fucking know anymore. I don't think anyone has a clue what they're going to make exclusive or not. It's a guessing game. And so maybe they're doing that intentionally. So you're just a Game Pass sub and Game Pass is everywhere and you don't got to ask any questions, but we'll see. I don't want to say too many comments that'll be dated too soon until we have full information. There's a ton on the way. I'm trying to think. ID at Xbox is always firing out really exciting games that are coming day one. The Game Pass, day one Game Pass in general is always firing on all cylinders. Last year in particular was really good. The fact that Sea of Stars, Starfield, and Eliza P were all day one Game Pass and they were like a week apart from each other is incredible to me.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
crazy.
Long Fallen Dynasty was day one Game Pass. I think they're firing on all cylinders, really. I think they are. And I think this year, now that there's no more excuses, like we can't make the excuse in 2022, like, look, it's just first party. They're just getting Bethesda. It's like, no, all your first party should be good to go in some capacity. Someone should be firing off there. Bethesda is firing on all cylinders right now. They released 3 full games last year. You have the Starfield expansion to look forward to with all of its updates. The Fallout 4 next gen update, maybe the Fallout 3 remaster. I just think there's a lot. Like this is going to be the year that Xbox fans, I think, were asking for. If you were to ask me, I feel like there's going to be a lot of announcements, a lot of things relevant to Game Pass subs, a lot of things relevant to those who want stuff exclusively on the platform. And I think there's going to be almost too much of it. I think Xbox has, like, I think that we're going to go from nothing to like swimming in it. And because I don't know how you balance, like, what do you tell Activision to delay their content? Like they are probably one of your biggest moneymakers now. Like you're not going to push their stuff back. And you tell Bethesda to push their stuff back. It's like, no. So they said they're going to have quarterly exclusives ready. And so I think with the developer direct, which is rumored as of the time of recording, we'll have a better idea of what that looks like throughout the year, what that roadmap is. But I don't know. I tell Xbox fans, I'm like, get excited. Like, I think this is going to be a really good year for them. I really do. Certainly there's a ton to look forward to. It's just like, you don't have that, I think, North Star right now, like you did with Starfield. Like that was the kind of thing that was pinned for years on your calendar. Now I think it's kind of like the ecosystem's up and running and it's up to you to decide what that is. I think the next big one for Xbox, if I were to wager a guess, would be Fable. I think that's like the next massive important one for them, because that's a series that they pretty much killed themselves, brought back, gave it to now Playground, one of their most steady developers who does racing games. And can Playground kind of do what maybe I'd say Guerrilla Games did, where they just did a whole genre pivot? I'm going to be curious to see that. And so I think Fable commands that level of like, those were the good days of Xbox, whether it was OG or 360. But also I think it's going to be like mass appeal. And look, the stuff they showed in that trailer was gameplay and people were denying it. And Playground was like, okay, like that's the best compliment you can give us. That was gameplay. So I think on like like the level of appealing, if that's going to be the gameplay, that's going to capture the masses pretty well because it's really impressive looking. So yeah, that's kind of my too long didn't read on Xbox in 2024. I think they're posed for a pretty good year, and I think there's gonna be a lot to look forward to. Where, especially with Xbox All Access, you can get like sound like a fucking salesman. I apologize. Like $20 a month, you can get everything. Yeah, you get your system, you get your Game Pass subscription, no interest. Fuck, I hate that I'm talking like this. But I'm just saying, it's, if you end up liking stuff, it's actually not the $300, $400, $500 commitment. I've seen people just get in at that price, or you have the Series S, the little man, as we call it on Defining Duke. So yeah, a lot of ways to get in if you end up liking it, where I think it's a lower investment than like PlayStation or Switch, which Xbox, I imagine, wants to use to their advantage this year in particular.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful for them because I don't know, man. It's I want them to get a good, like a really good win. Yeah, you know, like it's not fun watching such a big part of the industry kind of stumble for so long. You know, even when they do hit it in some respects, like with Starfield, where like it was a success for a lot of people, but like for a lot of people, it was very divisive. Like I just want like a good win for them, and I think Hellblade could maybe potentially. I don't know. Hellblade's weird for me. Like I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I'm kind of like worried about Hellblade.
Interesting.
That game.
It's I feel like it could be great. I just don't know it took them so long to show like combat, and then
I think that's what one thing is. It's just like the combat itself, and just if it'll actually be good instead of just all flash kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's all we've really been seeing, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, but Fable is definitely like
Fable's
that.
the one I'm the most excited about. Definitely, me too. I want to see how they handle that.
I've been waiting for ages.
Whenever Perfect Dark decides to show up, that'll be cool too.
Yeah. Give it a few years, man.
I want to know why they haven't put the original Gears trilogy on PC yet. I'm completely fucking baffled by that.
Great question.
Yeah. New Vegas too. Like they got to weaponize Obsidian. That's like their insomnia.
They absolutely should weaponize it.
If they want free money, that's it right there. Like just tell Bethesda to fuck off. They're like, look, we own this now, and we are going to make a new Fallout game without you. Yeah, see what happens.
That'd be great.
It's from Kyle Kelm. Just curious if any of y'all have played the Valhalla DLC. I know you're a big fan of Ragnarok, Brad, and welcome to the family. I've only played a little bit of it. I've played like 30 minutes of the DLC, this roguelike mode. I thought it was going to be all roguelite mode, which is fine, but I was surprised how much story there is actually in this.
Yeah.
I don't know where it goes or where it ends, but that definitely caught me off guard. It feels like a sequel, I would say, almost to it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've not played even Ragnarok in general, like to completion, so something I've been wanting to wipe off my backlog for a while, because I did enjoy. I wasn't as over the moon. Like I'm the weirdo who kind of really liked the old PS2 God of War games, and God of War 3 is like my favorite. I love that rendition of Kratos. Like I know it's not as captivating on a performance level, but I just think he's awesome. He does some out of pocket shit.
Can I ask you, how do you? I'm so fascinated by it. How do you feel about Dante's Inferno?
I've not played that.
I feel like you'd like it. I
have it in my collection.
It's literally just a God of War clone, but it's cool.
Awesome.
Like that's dope.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool.
I remember that.
Because like to me, when someone's like, "What's your favorite memory of God of War?" It's like, oh, I don't think of. I won't spoil anything, but I think of like God of War 3's opening, where you're fighting Poseidon and you press L3 and R3 at the same time, and you pop his eyes and the screen goes black. I'm like, that was fucking sick. So yeah, that I don't know, that type of stuff always just wins me over. I don't know. I'm cheesy, but yeah, I've not played the DLC. I heard really amazing things though, which kind of caught my interest, because when I first saw the announcement at the Game Awards, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like little DLC, you know, for those who really dig it, just get into some more combat here, because the combat system, at least from the original God of War, I thought was fantastic. So more of that doesn't sound like a problem. And I also was a little confused because I knew they had Muspelheim in the first one. I was like, so this is just DLC now? But to hear they had like added story, people were like blown away that it was even free, which I think was a good optical win that especially PlayStation needed with all that was happening with like Bungie and Naughty Dog canceling The Last of Us Online and whatnot. So I think it was really good, really necessary move for them.
Yeah, definitely. It's really solid. Yeah, I put like I think about 5 hours in.
Oh wow.
Or 4 hours in. It's
long?
something like that. I don't know. Like I'm also not very good at it. To be fair. Also, I'm not sure how like accurate the in-game clock is. Like I would guess it's probably about accurate. Like definitely 3 to 4 hours of it. And I there's a lot more story in it than I expected, and it's cool. I like what they're doing, and there's like set pieces or locations specifically that I've been waiting for in this God of War for a while. Specifically, I mean, I feel like even just the way I'm talking about it is obvious spoiler, but like it's not really. It's old
they
God of
showed
War.
It in the, they showed it in the trailer.
It's old God of War oriented, and that's cool.
Say less, yo. Hold up.
So it's dope. I think the combat works really, really well for a roguelike. I think there is an element of it where it feels a little bit like kind of squeezing a square peg into a round hole a little, because like the snappiness of roguelikes doesn't necessarily adhere to how God of War functions. It's not like, now, I'm not saying by a combat perspective, by the way, the combat's great, but like talking about like just transitioning from one zone to the next, it feels like a little bit, you know, like it's not like Hades where it's like, you know, you go through the door and like, yeah, you're there. It's God of War style. So it's like there's a door animation and you're opening it and it's all cinematic and stuff. It's weird. It's its own flavor of roguelike, and I think it works really well. It focuses on Kratos and Mimir, which I love. I love those two characters specifically. Yeah. I was so scared that this DLC would be like Atreus. I just did not want to deal with that at all. Yeah. But yeah, it's surprisingly good. It's wise that it's free, because it reminds me a lot of what Sucker Punch did with that Ghost of Tsushima.
That shit was awesome
multiplayer mode, which is unreasonably good.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, and it's I'd say it's the right amount of meat for something like that. Like like that Sucker Punch thing. Like maybe they could have charged for it, but it would have felt a little bit like, like it's a little light for its own separate thing.
Yeah.
So for it to be a free addition to something else, I think garners a lot of goodwill. It garners a lot of good press, especially for PlayStation in a time, like you said, Matty, where they're kind of going through a lot right now. Not that it matters. They're still selling a ton and making a ton of fucking money, but I mean, the optics are real and they do exist. And so it was a nice little win for them. I was pleasantly surprised by how into it I got.
Yeah.
Gotta finish it.
Yeah, I gotta get back to it. All right, dudes, our final question. This is from Mario Mendoza. Hey, Brad, welcome to the LSM crew. I am currently playing through all of the FF games and currently on Final Fantasy VI. Played 16 last year, and of course it was awesome. Which is your favorite FF game? Also, will the show be focusing on current games or a mix in any old games? Good luck with the show. Yes, the show is just going to be old and new games, whatever they're playing, whatever they want to talk about, that's what we'll be doing. Obviously, when a new hot game comes around, though, we're definitely going to talk about that game. So, but yeah, old stuff we'll make it into. So, let's see. Favorite Final Fantasy games? Top ones. Chris, I don't know how many you've even played or if any.
Oh, dude, I'm a basic bitch when it comes to this. My answer's 7. Like I love 7 in a weird way, because I don't even necessarily have that much of a connection to it, but I get nostalgic for 7, even only having played it when I was like a lot older. And that's something that's very bizarre. Like there's something about that soundtrack that is so I think that soundtrack is objectively special. Yeah, like it's so objectively good that I can't even it fills me with the same I feel the same way that I feel about like kind of like Star Wars in that way, where like I didn't really grow up with Star Wars at all. Like I kind of missed it in a lot of ways. But that Twin Sons theme, that's just good fucking. Yeah. That just makes you feel, man. And the entire Final Fantasy VII soundtrack makes you feel, and I love the look of it. I love the style, I love the story there. So that's my answer. It's the one I have the most experience with as well. So it's my default answer. I think there was one that I played a little bit when I was really young that I remember liking a lot, but I remember so little of it. It was the one with Kefka.
That's 6.
Oh, 6.
That's 6. Yeah. I remember liking that one a lot, but like at this point, that's just memories of liking it. I don't really remember much about it. But yeah.
What about you, Matty?
Oh man, I've been on. I just played 8 for the first time at the end of last year. And,
really interesting.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. Couldn't find many redeeming qualities about. I like the first half of the game. Really awesome first half. Yeah, it collapses pretty quickly thereafter. 9 is my favorite. I always tell people the not alone moment is like one of the most special moments in gaming. That combination of music and friendship, but not in this chummy JRPG way. Just it's a feel good moment, but also like this kind of origin story at the same time. I love the world of Final Fantasy 9, which I don't think outside of 7 I and 12 I really feel that way about many Final Fantasy games. Like I'm usually there for the characters, but the world in 9 to me is very like just captivating.
It is, yep.
And then, dude, Brad, I gotta be honest, man. 13-2 is one of my favorites.
I think that's fine. I know a lot of people that love that game.
Oh my god, I love that.
I don't think 13's good, but 13-2, yeah, I'll say yeah. I get that.
I'm not like an advent defender of 13. I'm more like it's okay. Like it's not the greatest sin gaming is committed, but it's not the best thing it's produced. But I mean 13-2, by God, the music alone is worth it. The music alone is worth it. That might be one of my most listened to soundtracks ever. Like 13-2 is special. I love the combat. I think that the way they carried that kind of paradigm shift system works really well. And, just so I don't go on too long, I'd say 12 is another favorite of mine. I actually hated 12 at first. First playthrough I did at 12, I did not like. I walked away just saying like what were they doing with the gambit system and the combat? It's just like, it feels like too much going on here. But I do think it's one of those games, like there are very few games I can think of that demand that second playthrough where you go like, okay, I see now what you were trying to do. And so, it's so funny. There are a few games like we talked about Baldur's Gate 3 earlier. I always say Shadowheart was like a fallen Jedi. Like that's her story. She is the story of a fallen Jedi.
Yeah.
Sometimes my brain only processes stories if I compare them to Star Wars. So I'm like, oh, Final Fantasy 12 is a Star Wars story. I'm like, you got the Empire. Oh, fuck, I get it.
It really is though.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Hey, hold on. Let me look at this from a new perspective. Play it again. And I replayed it 2 years ago and loved it. Cool. Vaughn, even like he was the MC I was really down on. I'm like, he kind of just gets injected in there. But I realized like my bad memory of the game in the sense of like just how I viewed it kind of skewed my perception of the events that entangle him into the main story. And he's actually not as shoehorned in as I thought he originally was. So once that complaint vanished, like Ash, I think is a great character. Yeah, it's just a wonderful cast. Everyone's kind of like just like mired in their own personal motivations, and it takes a while for the team to actually come together for the best interest of the world at hand. So yeah, 12 is fantastic, and this is kind of weird, like especially with the Zodiac Age version. There's this weird MMO feel to it where I kind of just it's a cozy game, like just firing it up, ripping through some dungeons. I don't know if you've tried the secret final boss that has like 1 million health or something like that, and then you have to fight for like 40 minutes. I was trying to go for the platinum. Couldn't do it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never played the Zodiac edition. I only played the base game. But I remember being on I thought Vaughn was whatever kind of camp.
Yeah.
But I liked like Balthier and Bosch a lot. I thought they were sick.
Bosch is awesome. Yeah, Balthier's hilarious.
Yeah, as someone who's pretty much played every mainline one except 2, 7 is my favorite. I just fucking love that world and those characters and the materia system, the flexibility it gives you.
Yeah.
9 is my second favorite. I just, like Matt said, the world is just so captivating, something so wonderful about it. It has like a whimsical feeling to a lot of it that I really love. And it's like number 3, it always rotates for me. It's like 6 or 4 or something like that.
I gotta play 4. I want to play 4 so bad.
Yeah, 4 is really good. Really good.
Because I played a little bit of that on the Pixel collection or Pixel Remaster collection, and I was playing it for Retro Rebound. It was Retro Rebound. I played like an hour of it just to kind of see how it worked and how the new features function. The music was great. The story was immediately personal, and you were playing as the villain to start off. And I was thinking, like, that's
dope. I love that.
That's like exactly what is missing from modern stories. Is like always say like, we're getting all these superhero games, but we don't get like a super villain game. And I'm like, yeah, it's so easy to start off as the hero of the journey, instead of the bad guy. Like, I just think that shit's awesome. So
yeah.
That's why I want to play Final Fantasy IV. It like really caught my interest with that alone.
Yeah. And honestly, Final Fantasy 14 is one of the best Final Fantasy stories ever.
I keep hearing
I know it's so weird because it's an MMO, so it's like hard to kind of grasp it, but they do a phenomenal job, and they have some incredible characters and villains in that series that it has the MMO barrier, but it is still a Final Fantasy game at its heart.
So yeah, I gotta try it out because I keep hearing that. I feel like this is the year because after you and I get through this JRPG gauntlet, that's when I want to give it a whirl and kind of just see what's cracking. Like I want to start it leading into Dawn Trail and see, if how much I get captivated by it. Because dude, I keep getting blocked off by the Realm Reborn content.
Yeah,
it's like the worst part.
But they've trimmed some of it at least.
Yeah,
and if you got people to play with, dude, you can cruise through that game easily.
Yeah, that's the thing. I tried to get friends involved. They're like,
hey,
I'll
play with you, Matt. I'm max level, all that stuff. I'll help you out.
I'll hold you to it because I need it. I was down, but
Dustin,
my buddies were not.
We're gonna get Dustin in there too.
Oh, let's go! Really? Okay,
yeah, we're gonna have a squad. And we'll make Chris play just scream
just for the meme
in agony. Yeah.
That'd be a Patreon tier.
Yeah. All right, dudes, that's gonna do it. Episode 2 of Summon Sign. Chris, Matty, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, dude. I had a great time talking with you guys. Super good to meet you all. I appreciate it.
This is our first introduction, really. Yeah, like at all. And it was
at all for all of us, or for me. But we'll be back next week as always with a new cast sitting in. Got some great games I'm sure to talk about as always. But that's it, everybody. Have a good one and take care.
Peace out. Later.
Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.